And this is apparently this meeting is being recorded. For those of you online, I'm Allison Alter, and we're going to get started here with the mayoral candidates. So I'd like to invite Doug Greco. You can stand if you like, you can sit, whatever you're most comfortable with. Please address the crowd for 2 minutes, whatever you would like to share to introduce who you are.
Testing. All right. Hey folks, I'm Doug Greco, and I'm running for mayor because our city needs a leader who works for all Austinites. I grew up in the coal region, a coal region town, working class town in eastern Pennsylvania. And I came to Austin in the late 90s and started teaching here on the east side at what was Johnston High School, now East Side, for 5 years. And that's where I got involved in community organizing, first with Education Austin as a member, and then as director of Central Texas Interfaith, the Faith and Labor Coalition that I led for over 12 years. During that time, we won $500 million for investments in local and state funding for education, workforce, affordable housing, and other issues. And in 2021, I led the effort statewide with a coalition to kill the state's largest corporate tax giveaway program, Chapter 313. It took $1 billion a year in potential school funding and gave it to wealthy oil and gas companies. I was also chief of staff for State Rep Gina Hinojosa and a member of TSEU while I was there. And I worked in the LGBT movement as the director of programs with the largest statewide LGBT organization in the country. I am running for two main reasons. Our affordability crisis is driving working families out of the city and out of the middle class. We are the fastest growing city for millionaires. Our income inequality continues to increase, and our percentage of Black and Latino residents continue to decrease. And I think it's time for new leadership on this issue because cost of living has gone through the roof since the late 90s when I started teaching. Also, we need a mayor who's going to stand up to Greg Abbott and state leaders when our civil rights, education funding, and local decisions are under attack. I'll work with state leaders, but not for them. And I would not have stood with the governor to bring DPS into our neighborhoods. Been endorsed by the LGBTQ Victory Fund, want to be our first openly gay mayor. Dolores Huerta, who I worked with in the LGBT movement, and the Dolores Huerta Action Fund, and a whole host of local elected officials and Democratic Party activists. Thank you.
Next up is Carmen Yanes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Carmen Yanes Pulido, and I am running to be your next mayor of Austin. I am born and raised in Austin, Texas, and I've spent the past 20 years as a community organizer, the lion's share of that at the hyper-local, municipal, and neighborhood level all over Austin. I have 10 years of experience as a city board and commissioner. I served on the inaugural Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, which created the first 10 city council districts in Austin. I also spent 4 years on the Latino Hispanic Quality of Life Resource Advisory Commission, hearing from all of our community across the city and working with other quality of life commissions to make budget recommendations to our local council. I also spent 4 years on the Planning Commission, where I often was one of the main commissioners speaking out for local neighborhood, but also the rights of working class and low and moderate income Austinites who have so quickly been displaced from Austin, and ensuring that new development actually included units that all kinds of Austinites at all income levels could actually live in. I have grown up in a community of concerned and active and creative people, much like yourselves, who make this an incredible community. And I'm calling on you all to bring new community-driven, accountable leadership to Austin, Texas. I am very concerned about the current lack of transparency on our city council, 6 lawsuits violating the Open Meetings Act in the last 2 years, and an entire conversation about affordability with no actual affordability requirements and preference to private equity. On the other hand, we have so many opportunities in front of us. We have community developers, we have millions of dollars of federal infrastructure money coming in, and with the right collaboration, we can create opportunities for all of us in an Austin in which everyone can thrive. I would love to earn your support today, and I'm happy to share more after the forum. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Kathy Chobo, and it's great to be here with you today. One of my first entrances into political life here in Austin was to attend a multi-club forum a million years ago at Gardner Betts, and I remember sitting next to the amazing Shooty Fath and listening to her comments through the conversations, including you know, that at that time there was just one woman running for office, for city council office. And so she became a great collaborator and partner through my years as a council member. I was really privileged to be able to bring forward some of the initiatives that she had championed for so long. And those environmental initiatives and environmental stances earned me the Sierra Club endorsement this week. So I'm super excited to report that. I served 3 terms on the Austin City Council, 2 as representing District 9 and 1 at large. I also served as Mayor Pro Tem and had an opportunity to represent the city locally, nationally, internationally, and also to really work on issues and to work with our brand new 10-1 system. I am running because I believe we need new leadership in the mayor's seat. We need a mayor who's really going to focus on climate change and moving our city forward, not looking backward to what we've done in the past. We need a mayor who's committed to transparency. No member of this community should have to sue and go to the courts to ask for their 3 minutes at council to testify on the issues that they should be involved in helping shape. And so as your mayor, I am going to focus on issues of affordability, transparent government, as I mentioned, climate resiliency, and really building a city that works for everyone, for the working families in this community, not just the private interests and those with the most money. And I've got a track record of doing that as a council member, from leading and opening the Sobering Center to working and successfully expanding our resources for individuals experiencing homelessness, supporting the development of the homelessness outreach street team, initiating the resilience hubs, and lots of other work in between. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your consideration.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Bowen. You can call me Jeff. You can call me Jeffrey. You can call me J-Bo. Just please don't call me late for supper, because I still need to work on my svelte figure here. So I got into this based upon the fact that I was ready for a change. There's some very good opponents up here. Just trying to make sure that we're getting this city back somewhat on track. They're all worthy opponents, and I like all of them, and hopefully they'll like me when I become mayor. So at this point in time, we're just looking at a lot of the issues that go on. I want to get back to a lot of clarity and making sure that the city is responsible to the citizens. I've lived here 35 years, and I'm very upset over the way the whole thing is being handled at this point in time. So we're working we're working with very difficult issues, whether it be the homeless issue that seems to be never ending, also a budget that is the largest that we've ever had. And we need some fresh eyes to be able to look at this. I'm not a politician. That's plain and simple. But at some point you have to stand up and say what needs to be done and make sure that you're part of the solution and not part of the problem. There again, I'm here today to answer your questions and make this part of democracy. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all. I'm Kirk Watson, and it's great to be with Democrats. As many of you know in this room, I have spent my entire adult life in Travis County working with the Travis County Democratic Party and the various clubs. I've even served as chair of the Travis County Democratic Party when I was in the Texas Senate. Many of you know I was mayor from 97 to 2001, and then went to the Texas Senate in an election in 2006 and served there until 2020. While in the Texas Senate, I served as chair of the Texas Senate Democratic Caucus and was a leader in the Senate at that point in time. By the way, that's one of the things that you ought to pay attention to when people talk about how we do things at the Capitol. I was very successful in the last session of the legislature fighting for Austin values to make sure that we protected Project Connect. And of course, I'm endorsed by our 2 Democratic senators and a majority of the Democratic House members, because they know what I can do as mayor, fighting to have Austin values while at the same time getting things for Austin. I am running for re-election because when I ran the first time, what I said is our mantra needs to be affordability first in this community. We are creating a problem of generational inequity if we don't create ways to get more housing on the ground. I agree we can't go back. We can't go back to the way it was before we started this 20 months ago because at that point in time, the city was stagnant and stalled on getting the kinds of changes we needed to have more housing. We have changed that in the past 20 months. We have made a real difference, and we are now a national model. And I'll point out, Democrats, that we are the model for what the Democratic Party at the national level is calling for. If you heard President Obama's speech at the DNC, he talked specifically about what we need to do, as did Clinton and as did our candidate for president, Kamala Harris. I look forward to talking more with you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys just jumping right in order. It makes this go faster. So thank you. If you could please remember that when you're speaking into that mic so the folks who are back home can hear you well, that would be much appreciated. So I now have a question that I'm going to ask each of you in turn, and we're going to just do the order we have down here of Watson, Tovo, Bowen, Greco, Giannis for this one, and it's all going to be the same question, and you'll have 2 minutes. Here's the question. The 10-1 system is approaching 10 years old. The system created districts instead of a large system and also increased the number of council members. How do you think the system is working? What do you think is the mayor's role within a 10-1 system? Where possible, be specific with examples to illustrate your points.
Great. Well, I've served as mayor both in an at-large system and in the 10-1 system. So I have a unique perspective in that regard. I think it's actually working very well when it has some cohesion to it. So that, for example, in the past 20 months, what we have seen is that as a general rule, the council has been able to work as a team. And that's why you see things getting done better, I believe, at City Hall than what you saw prior to that. City Hall moves, it can move too slowly and inefficiently, but we have actually changed that. And it also gets something that we hoped would happen with single member districts, and that is you get a diversity of opinion and you get diversity in terms of representatives in race and ethnicity and different parts of the city. And we're seeing that people are heard better in that way, and we can make a difference. For the role of the mayor is as the only elected citywide person is you need to be able to bring a citywide perspective. You need to be able to collaborate with the membership on the council. And one of the things I'm proud of course, is that the council obviously believes that that is working well in addition, because I'm endorsed by 80% of the members of the city council in this race for mayor. The example that I would give would be with regard to housing. It would be with regard to what we're seeing in housing and the fact that we are now able to get the kinds of land development code changes in place that we weren't before, whether it's Home 1 or Home 2, or what we've done with regard to equitable transit-oriented development so that we'll be able to bring Project Connect forward and keep going forward. The other example is I've played a strong role as mayor in trying to help with the collaboration on how we address our homeless situation. It was broken, and we have made real progress.
So I'm the only only person who served as a city council member in both systems, and had an opportunity to serve as mayor pro tem when we made that big transition. And it was an incredible honor to be able to do so and to be able to really help the new council shape how we were going to move forward. And I will say, having served on the last two councils prior to the current one, we got a lot done, actually, despite what you might have heard from my opponent who just spoke. We created, for example, the Equity Office. We created the Civil Rights Office. We made historic investments in ending homelessness, which was much needed, and a whole host of other things. I think the system is working extremely well. And we need a mayor who's going to continue to really make sure that, no matter, because even though we have council members elected by a district, they represent the whole city. And it's critically important that that continue to be a focus. And I spoke at a UT group about last January for about an hour about this very topic. What's working? Where are the challenges? I think it's a challenge for the community to make sure that you continue to elect folks and that you hold them accountable for representing the whole city. And we need a mayor who's really going to make sure that the conversations around that work session table and around that council dais are focused on the needs of the city as a whole, but are also making use of that really specific information and knowledge that each district council member brings to it. To do that, we need to have work session meetings. The last couple have been canceled. That's the opportunity for the council to talk among themselves. Those are critically important. And, there have been some stops and some glitches here and there. For example, one of the early votes we took in allocating resources, the decision was close decision. I voted against it, but it allocated sidewalk and I think pedestrian improvements equally across the districts. The impulse there was good, but what happened was that it was not an equitable distribution of resources. One of the areas, District 1, that was the most under-resourced, really lost out in that equation. So we need to keep mindful of the need to proceed with equity and really make sure that we're focused on citywide issues.
Well, I actually voted for 10-1 because I was very, as somebody that lives in the southwest side of town, it felt over the years that I'd been here before 10-1 that really only the central part of the city was represented. Once 10-1 came along, I thought, okay, this is going to be great. We're going to get some different representation. We're going to actually have somebody we can talk to. Over time, it's been rather well, but there's times that also member that's in their own district, whatever they're, as mayor, I want to go back and remind everybody that the message that you're sending, the vote that you're doing, not only impacts your district, but impacts the rest of the districts. I realize now that having been one of the persons that set out with Austin Neighborhood Council, being with them for many years, that during the home process, we went out to reach and talk to every one of the council members that we could, that would see us regarding Home 1. That was a few days before. We were told right off the bat by many of them that we've already got our minds made up. So I found that to be very disheartening. In fact, we weren't even able to be listening yet. Hopefully, as mayor, that issue would be that you're going to need to start taking the time to listen to your constituents. So I do see some issues with the 10-1 as it is, but we need to look forward versus looking backwards. And again, you need to make sure that those people are understanding that they also represent the rest of the city. And council members need to be talking to their constituents versus just ignoring them as some of them have done. Thank you.
I'll just say three things. Number one, this is obviously a better system than the at-large system. As lead organizer of a citywide coalition and eventually a 5-county coalition, to get anything passed like the $200 million in 2021 of ARPA money to go for permanent supportive housing, and I don't think that our whole funding system was broken, with all due respect, Mayor, because 1,700 units will become online because of that vote under Mayor Adler and Judge Brown, the $200 million that we got at the city and county. But I had to bring in leaders and clergy and teachers and principals from each of those council districts to build a majority. And we had to understand the west side and the north side and the south side. And that's good. And I think that's what a strong leader as mayor needs to do. We don't have a strong mayor system, but we need a strong leader. The mayor is the chairman of the board in this system, not the CEO. And I think part of the challenge in the last few years, and I like Mr. Garza, and I worked with him when he was involved in Capital Idea, but I feel like he reported to one person. And I will make sure the city manager and the staff has relationships, and the city manager reports to the entire council, okay? And to be an effective mayor, I've got to understand the interest of those council members and their districts as well. And that's the type of mayor I'll be. As the last thing I'll say is, in terms of the support from the council members, I understand how endorsements work and the body has got to function. So I don't have anything against council members endorsing an opponent. But I will say 80% of my high school football starting offense has donated to me, and they don't owe me anything. They did it because they like me.
So I was born just west of downtown, and I grew up there and east of I-35. I grew up on both sides of the highway. I went to magnet schools, and I got to know people from all over this city in different neighborhoods and see all the different sides of Austin, the different kinds of neighborhoods. And for the last 15 years, I've been organizing in North and South Austin in the areas south of Highway 71 and north of 290, both sides of the highway. Austin is a diverse city with an unfortunate legacy of major racial segregation and economic segregation that have actually gotten worse over time. But we have promise in our lessons learned. And I think it was Obama who said that justice doesn't move in a linear line over history, it zigzags. 10-1 is only 10 years old. And I knew when it started, it was going to be a bumpy ride. I was part of the coalition that pushed for 10-1 and pushed for an independent citizens redistricting commission. And it was the most diverse coalition I have ever seen in my entire life. I had never seen people of all walks of life from north, south, east, west, every single corner coming together for better representation. And I was very happy we got out of a gentleman's agreement with a designated Black and Hispanic seat. But we still have not reformed our finance and representation, and there is still a long way to go to make sure that directly impacted people are represented by all council members. I'm thrilled to see African American and Asian American candidates in District 7. I'm thrilled to see us moving beyond the segregation of our neighborhoods in the Voting Rights Act. But the only other diverse coalition I've seen so diverse was the coalition that came together against the Home 1 and 2 initiative, because we wanted deeply affordable housing. We wanted any requirement that would keep our housing prices from going up and not down. And actually, you saw that from working, low, middle, moderate income people across the spectrum from every single council district. We need a mayor who is going to listen to constituents and bring that unity and get us out of these boxes that we've been put in for years.
Thank you. So I'm gonna, I think, maybe need to make these ones 90 seconds rather than 2 minutes for the next two questions. So we have two more questions for each candidate, and I'm gonna make those 90 seconds instead of 2 minutes because we're a little bit running over. And the first question is going to go to Ms. Yanis and then to Mr. Bowen. And this question is, the City Council recently initiated a process to develop a comprehensive bond plan to be put before the voters. What do you think should be included in a 2026 bond and why?
I think before we look at the 2026 bond, we need to take a good hard look at all of the bonds that we have approved over the last 10 years, where our spending has taken place. There are many things that address climate that can be addressed in our existing mobility bond. There are many expenditures in our watershed protection bonds, in our affordable housing bonds, and we need accountability on how those dollars are being spent and are they benefiting the communities that we have put in money to pay for. I am all for looking at a comprehensive bond package in 2026 that includes many of the unimplemented priorities, especially around our environmental initiatives. But I also want to remind us that we have the Inflation Reduction Act and this incredible opportunity to leverage our dollars. And affordability is getting harder and harder as taxes go up. We have not actually dealt yet with we've only dealt with about half of the tax burden of the debt that we have approved. So we need to be looking long range. We need to look at where we can cut spending that is going to expensive outsourced private contracts when we have really great homegrown recommendations right here at home. And we need to invest in our civil service, ensure that our basic services are covered, and use our bond money to get ahead of the curve on climate, infrastructure, and real affordability.
It was Mr. Bowen, Kathy. And Bowen is next. You're gonna have a different question.
All right. If you want to answer that, let's go ahead. I'd be happy to hear yours. When it comes down to the bonds, I really think we need to have a good accountability of where the money has gone so far.
Can you speak into the mic?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. We need to look at how our bonds have been spent so far, what is still due, what's still out there. Because we're now in 2024, we're still looking at stuff from way back that still hasn't been done. In regards to this bond on the environment that we're wanting to do, I would really like to see a little more detail as to what all they're looking at wanting to do on this. We just say, okay, we want this money to do this all for climate. Well, that's a pretty broad subject. At what point are you going to start giving the taxpayers some details on what are those issues within that amount of money that you're looking for? How can the citizens vote on it when there's not any clarity or transparency in the whole process? You can just say, you need to vote on this to see what's in it. We need to understand because it will impact our taxes. It's going to impact our affordability. And many of the citizens in this town right now are struggling to meet their current taxes and their cost of living here. So a clear, concise plan would be great to have so that we can understand what all is in it, so that the public can speak up and add to it if they need to, or have questions as to why is this so much of it going here, and have a breakdown on that entire expenditure. Thanks.
Thank you. So the next question goes to Ms. Tovo and then to Mr. Watson. And bear with me for doing it this way. We're just trying to get as many questions. So Ms. Tovo first, together with your council colleagues, as mayor, you would oversee Austin Energy. How do you believe that Austin Energy can best deliver on its goals of affordability, reliability, and sustainability?
Well, as a council member, I also served for a time as the chair of the Austin Energy Committee, so I know a lot about it and really care about it. Number one, I would say we need to make sure that it stays in the hands of the council as its board. And some of you may remember, it wasn't too terribly long ago that there was a proposal from Mayor Leffingwell to turn it over as a private board. And if you look back at the articles from those days, Senator Watson, then Senator Watson was exhibiting support for it. I also believe that we need to make sure that we're not privatizing the assets. There was a proposal recently. I'm super glad that it's been postponed right now, but we need to make sure that Austin Energy is not moving forward with turning over the chillers to a privatized asset. That's our only revenue opportunity and way to really lower rates for customers. And we need to make sure that the utility is proceeding along our generation plan. We absolutely need to move to a fossil-free future. We need to do it sooner rather than later. And we need to prioritize getting out of Fayette coal. So those are our priorities that we need to keep before the council. We need to be addressing as a council how to get out of Fayette. It's easier said than done, but needs to get done. And we need to make sure that we have an Austin Energy Committee, council committee that is going to get into the details about the rates and make sure that they're not getting raised unnecessarily. There wasn't a lot of discussion about it in this year's budget process, but you'll notice you did see a rate increase on that. And that's the responsibility of the mayor to make sure that those conversations happen. Thank you.
Well, let's start with the last part of that, because the mayor did and the council did have all of the discussions about that. And in terms of reliability and affordability, you're sometimes going to have instances, and there were rate increases at other times prior to this as well. I also want to address real quickly this concept of when Mayor Leffingwell had his proposal. That it's not true that I've never supported privatizing Austin Energy. I don't believe it should be privatized. I've always been of the opinion that it's one of our greatest assets and one of the best assets for our people, so that we can actually address things like affordability to our people and address sustainability and climate. What was done at the time was there was a question about the 1999 Deregulation Act and whether it would allow for the council to make those decisions without a vote of the people. It was determined that they could, and he wanted clarity on those kinds of things. And I expressed what the law was at the time. So don't be fooled about that. One of the things that we have to do, though, is not treat reliability and affordability and sustainability all as three legs that have to be the same size on the stool. I think we ought to put climate at the front of that. I've called for ending our interest in Fayette by 2029. Let's make every decision we make run through that prism. The people that have supported and have been in leadership positions on that committee in the past didn't make that happen, and we need to make that happen in the next 4 years.
Thank you. So the next question is going to be this round of questions for Mr. Greco, but then also the next round of questions for Ms. Tovo. So what is your assessment of Austin's efforts to meet the needs of neighbors experiencing homelessness? What should be the next steps?
So as I mentioned, the organization that I led built the political will to get that 200 million from the city and county to build the permanent supportive housing. And the best thing that the city and the county did was give those projects to the nonprofits that are leading the way: Community First, Foundation Communities, LifeWorks, all of the organizations that work closest with those populations. I think we're doing well with that, and we need to do more. And we need to, continue to invest in more housing, more permanent housing, and supportive services. Where I think we need to catch up is overnight shelters, emergency shelters. We are way behind, and there's a lot of unmet need. And number two, transitional housing as well. So we're doing well with permanent. I think the other two places we need to do better. But we count 6,000 in the point in time survey for those experiencing homelessness that are living on the streets, but 4 times as much, 6 times as much when you look at the federal definition that school districts use for folks who are doubling up with other families, couch surfing, living in garage apartments that aren't sanctioned apartments. That's economic homelessness that we need to prevent by investing in workforce education, emergency assistance, rental assistance to keep more folks from slipping into homelessness.
Thanks very much for the question. As District 9, I'm also just going to hold this up. Some of you were at the Austin Enviro Dems where we talked about the independent board proposal, and I shared that. As the district representative for Council 9,
Mayor, please.
As a district representative for Council 9, many of my constituents were individuals experiencing homelessness. This was a major priority for me. I also chaired the ECHO advisory board for a time. And what we need to do is continue the progress that we were making to build permanent housing and provide services. Some of that money I with my colleague, Councilmember Alter and others, it wasn't just Mayor Adler, we had an overwhelming majority support on the council to pass those, to allocate those ARPA dollars for that highest need in our community. We need to continue that path to creating permanent housing. Some of that money was put into a temporary shelter, very expensive temporary shelter. We absolutely need shelter, but we need long-term sustainable solutions. If elected mayor, I am going to be a champion for working with the private sector to raise dollars. The city of Austin has made some great investments. We've got some great programs. We are nationally known for successful programs. They're just not operating at the scale that they need to. Individuals who are housed are remaining in that housing, but we need the private sector to step up and really be a partner with the city, with Travis County, and helping fund the solution that we need to make sure that every one of our neighbors has a safe and stable place to sleep. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Watson. With respect to I-35, what is your approach to this project, and how do we ensure whatever happens best reflects our community's wishes?
Great question. First of all, everybody pay attention to the difference between asking for an opinion on whether or not you can have an independent board and privatizing Austin Energy. There's a real difference. In addition, at that time, the city council passed a resolution asking for us to get an answer to that question about how you can go to an independent board. An independent board is different. For example, CPS in San Antonio is a municipally owned utility with an independent board. Now, with that being said, Interstate 35 is going to have major change in it. My approach to that has been to get it done right. That would include making it what will be the second biggest transit project in our region behind Project Connect, because it would allow for managed lanes so that you can actually do transit, and it'll be designed through downtown so that transit can get off of the road in ways that it can't right now. It would make it more environmentally sensitive, not only because you would have vehicle traffic being able to move better and having less air problems, but it's going to have a $750 million water control project so that we will have less of bad water going into Lady Bird Lake than what we currently have. The other part about it is pay attention to it from the standpoint of what it can do in terms of parks and we're going to get a $25 million boardwalk as part of the trade along Lady Bird Lake and park to replace land right along Lady Bird Lake. We need to get it done right if it's going to be done, and I've worked to make that happen, including with the caps and potential and stitches.
Thank you. The next question is from Mr. Greco. If a court rules that the financing plan for Project Connect is illegal or violates the contract with the voters, what should the council do to address the decision and meet the city's immediate and long-term transportation needs?
So I support Project Connect, first of all. I think we're getting less than we initially voted for in a longer timeline, but I think we need it. So if the court doesn't rule, I would be the mayor that brings it in on time and on budget. If the court, overturns it, then I think we need to get back to the drawing board, because we do need a strong public transportation system. I do think it needs to include light rail and includes expanded bus service. I think it is good for our quality of life, good for our environment, and the jobs that come with it. So I would say we get back to the drawing board and put something together that would pass muster and that we can build a consensus around and get to building it.
Thank you, and I appreciate your brevity. That helps. This last question is going to be from Ms. Yanis and Mr. Bowen, and it's going to be the same question. The City Council recently made several major changes to the Land Development Code, the rules governing development in the city. These included changes to how many units you could build on a standard lot, how many occupants for a given building, the minimum lot size, the heights of buildings, parking rules, etc. Which aspects of these changes do you support? Why or why not? And what, if anything, would you change about these rules? Ms. Yanis, you're first.
I think it's very important that we're clear about how the home initiative was fashioned and how many of these land development code changes have been fashioned to deregulate and grant additional entitlements with no requirement for affordability, for critical infrastructure, for the environment, and for quality of life. It's why you saw an overwhelming majority opposed to the home initiative as it stands, because people knew that the first units to be demolished to create, quote, more housing, which we don't always get more housing in these developments, will be the low to moderate income apartments, duplexes, and small houses. We've already seen it, a $500,000 to $800,000 home torn down to build $3 million to $3 million units. And this could have been fashioned, it still could be fashioned as a density bonus. We could require all of those things instead of repackaging Reaganomics to people who don't remember it and don't realize that they're getting duped. This wasn't created to build homes to sell to people. It was created to create additional profit. We can preserve our existing affordable units. We can protect tenants and low-income homeowners so we can negotiate good development, and we can produce thousands of new deeply affordable units. I have a track record of helping create hundreds and hundreds of them in my own neighborhood and my family's neighborhood. Thank you.
Well, let me say, I am not against home in per se. I'm a property rights activist. I believe your property is one of our only assets that we have, but we have property rights and we need to maintain those. Part of the issue that I had way back on the land development, as many of you know, that was part of the lawsuit that sued the city, and it was over protest rights. Under the home issue, some of the issues that I have with it is that there's a lack of clarity, because people are saying that, oh, we can build this or we can build that, but there's no clarifications, or people are under the misnomer that this is not going to cost them a lot of money. There needs to be there needs to be clear information as to what is the cost of a permit, what is the cost of your impact fees, what is the cost of your additional insurance? How is it going to impact your actual taxes? You're going to lose some of your homestead exemptions on your property, yet none of those things were brought up. I'm very concerned about the safety aspect of it. Having been in the construction business for over 40 years, fire and safety is the utmost in any of the projects that I've ever worked on. One of those issues that comes with that is, how are you able to get fire service to these people and protect them? There needs to be some understanding in the entire process and how it impacts those people that are being told that they can just go build in their own backyard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is the end of the amount of time that we have for the mayor's race. Thank you all very much for your time and your answers. If you could please exit. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. If you can exit that way, and we're gonna get moving with District 4, and I think we're gonna take District 4, and we had a little bit in between, but we're gonna just go right to you if that's okay. Mr. Vela and Ms. Guzman, welcome. If you are part of the District 7 race and you're a candidate, if you can move up towards the front so we can make sure that everyone's here for when we start, because you're up next. And again, if folks can please take conversations out into the hallway, that would be much appreciated. So for the council races, we're going to have a little bit less time for Q&A, but each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to address the clubs and share their perspective on whatever they want to share in that 2 minutes. And then we'll have, in this case, we'll have 3 minutes each for questions, 2 questions of 90 seconds for each of the candidates. And it'll vary a little bit when we get into races that have 7 candidates. For this race, we have 2 questions each at 90 seconds. So there's 3 minutes total of Q&A per each, 2 minutes for the talk. Yeah. Sorry, I had to make it as complicated as possible to try and fit as much in. So thank you. Okay, well, welcome. We are gonna invite Ms. Guzman to go first with her 2 minutes, and then Mr. Vela. And please speak into the mic.
Okay,
As
can y'all
much
hear
as-
me? Okay, good. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Monica Guzman. I am a native Austinite, so over the more than 50 years I have lived in this city. Most of it's North Austin in what is currently District 4 and District 7. And I've seen a lot of the changes. A lot of what drives my policy positions on everything as a candidate, as an advocate, as an organizer, are my own lived experiences. I was a parent at a young age, a single parent by 21, and living in those houses that belong to somebody else. So that's also known as the hidden homeless. They weren't our homes. I mean, they were family, but we don't make the rules. So it's emotional, it's a roller coaster. And then once I was out there, always moving to a new place every year, looking for the move-in special. That's my lived experience. That was more than 20 years ago. District 4, we're still seeing that, especially in the northern part, north of Research. That's why neighborhood stability is so important to me. Those sweeping land use changes. Yes, Austin is growing. Yes, there needs to be the ability to build, but we need to make sure there are guardrails to minimize speculation, that there are protections for the vulnerable renters and homeowners. We're in climate change. We need to plan with climate in mind. It's important to make sure our community is disaster prepared, especially the vulnerable, and that they have a place to go when they cannot stay safely in their homes. The city is behind on having standing resilience hubs with standing orders and interlocal agreements with the county and the school district. And community investments, that's very critical. There's a homelessness issue citywide. There's a lot of it in District 4. We need to make sure there is funding for those social service programs, for rapid rehousing, for permanent supportive housing. I was a former board member of Caritas, and I'm very proud to have been part of the process that Caritas has the first permanent supportive housing in District 4 and in my neighborhood. And also in the last few seconds I have been endorsed by Better Austin Today PAC and by the community powered ATX, who is part of that coalition in opposition to the home initiative. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank y'all so much for coming out on a Sunday afternoon to participate in the democratic process. Greatly appreciated. I'm Chito Vela. I am the current District 4 council member, immigration and criminal defense attorney. Been involved in a lot of different things. Most of y'all know me and my background. Let me just jump right into some of the accomplishments of this current council. The ones that I champion in particular, the first one I would put out there is the GRACE Act, which was guaranteeing the right to abortion care for everyone. When the Dobbs decision came in, we at City Council knew we had to respond, and my resolution would, because now Texas has criminalized abortion, my resolution directed the Austin Police Department to deprioritize any kind of criminalization of abortion, that we can't legalize it. We would lose in court in a minute, but it was an important and substantive signal to the police department to say, hey, not these kinds of cases, last ones on the list. We took a very similar step that I again championed with regard to transgender care, where again saying that, and the similarities there really with the medical decisions, just like we don't need to be criminalizing medical decisions. We really need to leave parenting and personal medical decisions to the people, their doctors, their family members, their conscience. And we need to just put that to the side. That we did a similar item for transgender care. The police transparency and accountability has been a major priority, and that's why I championed the creation of a data dashboard. We had very, very bad public information with Austin Police Department. That's improved substantially and will improve substantially as we improve our systems. Then the last thing I would just say is that housing and transportation improvements have been substantial in this council as well, and we're seeing falling rents, which is a great, great, great relief.
Thank you. So for the next question, I'm going to ask the same question to both of you, and you're going to have 90 seconds. Mr. Vela, if you can go first. What do you see as the key public safety issues for District 4, and how would you address them?
This is a key public safety issue, not just for District 4, but really it's a city-wide, and it's how we respond to mental health crises. We moved a prior council before I got on there, made the very wise decision to, when you call 911 now, it's police, fire, EMS, or mental health. So we've got it kind of on the operational list. Unfortunately, our mental health, our psychiatric emergency center managed by Integral Care is not a 24/7 center. It's woefully the time for being able to take someone there. It needs to be 24/7. And then the other thing is when you do call 911 and you do ask for mental health, we're not responding 24/7. We don't have the staffing in our partnership with Integral Care. We're not where we need to be in terms of that response. We don't need police officers to be responding to especially non-violent situations involving mental health care. It's one thing when someone has a knife, but if they're just in a catatonic state walking through the streets, sometimes the worst thing we can do is send a police officer. But we cannot ramp down the police response until we ramp up the mental health response, and that has been a real challenge just administratively for the city, is getting the staffing right so we have 24/7 mental health response for people that are in crisis.
Thank you. Ms. Guzman.
Well, as he said, mental health is definitely an issue because of the homelessness issue we have in the district, but so is housing. And actually, the best way to do it across the board is when you invest in the community services, and that includes our community health paramedics. Instead of sending out the police to address issues, send the people who are trained to do it so the police can focus on what they were trained to do. We invest in the social service programs. We invest in our community health paramedics. And with the housing, as I was talking about at the housing forum the other night, is we need nuanced land use. We need public, not-for-profit. We need public-private partnerships. We need permanent supportive housing. We need rapid rehousing. And instead of looking at HUD's median family income chart for the entire county, when there is proposed income-restricted development, look at the MFI for the census tract. If the census tract is below the county's one, then build based on that. Make it affordable based on that. Because for District 4, the 60% MFI, I recall, is $63,000. Yet the median family income in the district is $59,033. So at 60%, it's still $1 million to the folks that are at the lower level. That's not the answer. We need partnerships. We need subsidies. We need nuanced policy. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question, we'll start with Ms. Guzman and then go to Mr. Vela, 90 seconds as well. In recent years, extreme weather has impacted Austin and its infrastructure. If you were elected to council or as a council member, what steps would you take to ensure Austin's and District 4's resilience in the face of climate change?
That's a great question. You know, one of the steps that we took, and we changed city management, and one of the finished steps that a prior city manager had not executed was we did not have emergency power backup at our resilience centers, basically at our recreation centers, at our libraries. When we need to use those facilities as emergency shelters, we've got to have on-site electric generation. We've got to have a generator there. We've taken those steps to make sure that our system is more resilient, is stronger. A lot of this is administrative. I don't want to get deep into that, but we made a change at the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Department, and we got a different person, and we've been getting different results. We've been improving, but we had taken kind of budgetary. I think council had taken steps to make things happen in terms of resilience, but it hadn't been executed on the ground. The change in management, the change in leadership has really helped to get some of those very, very critical measures implemented. The last thing that I would mention is we've got to increase the resiliency of our electric grid. We've had way too many blackouts. We really need to look at burying our electric infrastructure so that it's not vulnerable to an ice storm, so that it's not vulnerable to a vehicle hitting the pole and knocking out power for 2,000 people during the hottest time of the year. We've got to really invest in that. That's going to be a major priority over my second term.
Part of my campaign, and as a policy director for small nonprofit, in working with residents and allowing them, helping them meet with council members, as a community-based organization where I work at others, we need to have collaboration between the city and the community.
Well, I got it. Everybody has a poet. He said a poem. He said, when I start getting hurt on the last day, I told my wife to run. But he sees himself as that Republican spy. So I'm just standing there to keep him honest. Yeah. But it'll come into the blossom. Because maybe Bowen's running for that one side boss. But everybody, all right.
Thank you. Unfortunately, that is it. We are doing our best to at least be able to ask you each 2 questions and give you that 2 minutes, but we have so many candidates. But thank you for running. We appreciate that. So if you are in District 7, if you can come up here, and maybe if we can just have a touch base if we're missing somebody so I can know that. My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, just press. Okay.
Yes. So for those of you who may have recently gotten here, my name is Allison Alter. I represent District 10 on the City Council. I'm pleased to get to moderate this afternoon's conversation, and we're going to just keep plowing through. At some point, we may take a little break, but I think we have a lot of great candidates to hear from. They're putting a lot of time and energy into running, and so I really appreciate you guys spending the time here with us this afternoon to hear from them. So the next council race that has an open seat is for District 7. And there are 7 candidates running, and 6 of them are here this afternoon. And so welcome, gentlemen, to this forum. The way that we're going to proceed is that you are each going to have 2 minutes to introduce yourself, to say whatever you want to this audience about your candidacy. And then we are going to have 2 questions that I will ask you. The first question will be the same for all candidates and be 1 minute long. And then the second one will be 2 minutes and will vary across the candidates. So if we could get started, and again, I don't know where this order came from. It was the order that was given me. It may be ballot order, I'm not sure. Mr. Bautista, Mr. Bledsoe, Mr. Wynn, Powell, Siegel, and Shaw is the order that I have on my list. Mr. Dominguez is not here. Yes. And I will just add that Mark is going to be the timekeeper. Yeah. And Mark is our timekeeper, and he's going to keep you honest here.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Edwin. I am a native Texan, community advocate, and a certified urban planner. I'm running because I believe, I'm running for District 7 because I believe we need generational change on the dais. I also believe we need leadership that is as diverse as our community. The challenges that our city faces today not only require bold action, but leadership that is unafraid to speak truth to power. If you elect me to the Austin City Council, my priorities will be to ensure that our growth is managed responsibly, that every voice, and that we never lose sight of what makes Austin special. That means tackling housing affordability, enhancing public transit, and protecting our green spaces, all to ensure a sustainable and vibrant future for us all. And to add a little bit more to that, I want to specify that I am running because I believe that our council is at a crossroads right now. And I think we really need to have representation that is as diverse as this community in this room right here, right now. My campaign is built on the experience, a lived experience that I've had here in Austin as a low-income student that came here to UT with nothing but a dream of completing, earning a degree. And through the help of this community, I was able to achieve that. And I've learned so much about the city, and I love the city and grateful to be able to call this place my home. And I really am excited to be a part of this election as well, because I believe this is a defining moment for not just Austin, but for the country. And I'm prepared to work hard as I can to bring us forward. And I believe that my campaign platform is it speaks to that as far as being able to bring innovative ideas to the council, such as reforming our governance structure. I really believe that our governance structure is outdated. We don't need a city manager. We don't need to cut the bureaucracy and make sure that we empower our mayor and our council members by consolidating our council districts from 10 to 5 and making sure that each has dual representation. Each council member will have be elected by the members in the district and at large. And I hope you guys will check out my website, edwinfordistrict7.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bledsoe.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Bledsoe. I'm a social justice attorney and social justice advocate. I'm looking for your support for place 7 for the Austin City Council for District 7. What has occurred in our community is tragic. We have seen where the insiders, the cronies, and the individuals that are even billionaires have much greater influence than our regular citizens at City Hall. We have seen where individuals from our city who have gone to talk with our council and to share their views have been disrespected and not allowed to speak. We have seen where issues that are extremely important to all of us in the community have not been thoroughly discussed. And those are real problems to me because it's mindful of the past. And I don't want to see us return to those days in the past when minorities and others were disrespected and not allowed to have input in City Hall. And if you think what you've seen is a problem, then I am the candidate for you. We can see what's occurred in terms of the influence of builders and given so much permission and license to do harm in our communities without regard to the consequences of their actions. We see where we need good policies, but they're not discussed. For example, we need housing. We even need more density. But it's important that we do that to cover the whole community. We are displacing musicians, we're displacing artists, we're displacing workers, we're displacing individuals that have lived in this community for many years. You need somebody to stand up to the powers that be that are taking us in the wrong direction, and I'm that person. I'll look for your support for my District 7 candidacy. Thank you.
You're next. Yep.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Nguyen. I'm also running for Austin City Council in District 7. I just want to thank Councilmember Alter for hosting this, hosting this meeting, but helping to coordinate this meeting along with Mark for taking time. So when people talk about or ask me why I'm running for Austin City Council, I keep on trying to understand and wrap my head around why am I running for Austin City Council? And it goes back to a lot of different things throughout my entire life. One of them was in April of 1975, my parents came here, not because by choice, but fleeing war from a war-torn country and building a new life here, a better life here for them. And throughout my entire life, I've seen how they've struggled to have their voice heard and struggled to have work through a system that was not built for them. And I see that in my work as well. I was a firefighter here in Travis County, an EMT, and also served on the Public Safety Commission and Asian American Quality of Life Commission, along with also working for the past 6 years for a nonprofit called American Youth Works. Really focused on workforce development, helping individuals in the Eastern Crescent in helping to further their education and further their training. And so I want to bring that to City Council, this aspect of serving the people, really bringing it back to what they said when I first went to military schools, bringing it back to the basics. It might not be sexy, right? But we need our garbage taken out. We need people to come when we call to take care of us. And I've been taking care of, been in your houses, taking care of some of your loved ones. And I'd like to have the opportunity to be able to take care of y'all in the City Council. So I ask for your vote. You can find out more about me at pierre4atx.org. Thank you.
Hey, y'all, my name's Adam Powell. I'm running for City Council in North Austin's beautiful District 7. And the reason I'm running for this seat is really personal. I'm the only candidate in this race who was born right here in Austin, but I didn't have the opportunity to grow up here in Austin. I grew up in Leander because my educator parents couldn't afford to have housing and raise me and my siblings in Austin proper. Now, I've had the opportunity to come back to Austin in my adulthood, make my way here, but so many people that I grew up with haven't had that same opportunity and have been forced out of the area entirely. So when I look at the housing affordability crisis, the crisis that pushed my family outside of Austin in the first place, and I see how much worse it's gotten, it stirred me to run. It stirred me to hop into the arena and make a difference. I'm also passionate about transportation and mobility. I believe that our current state of car dependency here in Austin is environmentally and on an equity perspective, completely unsustainable. We have to find more opportunities to get folks out of cars, on bikes, walking, and in the future, taking rail. And then I was also stirred to run because of our essential utilities, energy and water. And I'm specifically thinking back to the recent winter storms when I was vice president of the North Shoal Creek Neighborhood Association. I remember neighbors of mine who were in their 80s who didn't have power for a week. And they survived cooking meals over their fireplaces in Austin, Texas in 2021. I don't think that's right, and I know that we can do better. And in terms of my experience, what I'm bringing to the table, my career path started in my undergrad years at TCU, where as part of a small percentage of Black students on that campus, we co-founded the first Black Studies program there. I've taken that experience, worked as a union organizer, worked to recruit teachers, worked in the state government providing pandemic relief, and then on the community side, been active volunteering, whether that's as a board member with Austin Safe Alliance, the VP experience I mentioned earlier, or being a committee member with Cap Metro. So I'm asking for y'all's support today, y'all wonderful volunteers who are sustaining democratic politics here in Travis County. And you can learn more about my campaign at adamforaustin.com. That's FOR or the number 4. Both of them work. Thank you so much.
Mr. Siegel, you're next.
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Mike Siegel, and I'm a progressive Democrat running for Austin City Council. And I'm running for City Council to protect reproductive rights, to take strong action on climate change, and to stand up for Austin values against the Texas Republican Party. I bring 25 years of professional experience to this work. I've been a public school teacher, a union organizer, a civil rights lawyer, and for 4 years, I worked at City Hall as an Austin city attorney, where I wrote policy, went to the court for the city, and advised council and staff. And really, in terms of this campaign, I'm also bringing a lot of community organizing experience. You know, I'm active in my kids' schools as a PTA volunteer, but also, for example, during the COVID pandemic, I sued Governor Abbott on behalf of local parents at several school districts to make sure that we could have mask rules in our local public schools. In terms of this campaign, I'm focusing on climate action as the big issue. You know, we've been through these extreme weather events, the freezes, the heat waves, and we do need to prepare and become more resilient in the years to come. But I also see this as a huge opportunity for Austin, where we can invest in decarbonization, in renewable energy, where we can close this Fayette coal plant and build some new renewable energy generation and battery storage, where we can create good union jobs and develop climate resilience. And so these are some of the issues I'd like to organize on. I feel like I bring a unique blend of energy, experience, and skills to the position of potential city council representative, and I'd be honored to earn your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Hello, I'm Todd Shaw, running for District 7. I would love your support. I've been a lifelong Democrat, lived here since 1981. And like many of the candidates here, I will protect Austinites from our radical right Texas GOP. Things like, women's rights for reproductive freedoms and health, funding our schools, protecting our transgender community, stopping gun violence. These are all things that we are supportive of. However, fellow Democrats, I would say when it comes to local issues, we need to do a better job of working together. Let me give housing as an example. And I would like to say we are living with the 1984 Land Code. That is creating the problems we are seeing today. So there have been no changes. And that land code was key to meeting our housing and transportation goals. Why are we not meeting those goals? We have a 1984 land code. So what I would ask is that we come together and try to work through those issues. Council right now is making incremental changes to the land code, and it's costing us in terms of money, and it's costing us in terms of community input, and it's dividing communities even more. We're going to have 4 million people here in 2040 in this MSA. That's 15 years. We got to get serious in making changes today so that are needed for the future. So what about me? I'm a public servant, been a public servant at Austin Energy for 30 years as a leader in the environmental community, and also a leader on the Planning Commission for 3 years as chair. I have a reputation of bringing people together to make changes on tough issues facing our communities. Anyway, thank you, and I would love your support.
Thank you. The next question is going to be for Mr. Dominguez is not here. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. So the next question is going to be a 1-minute answer from each of you. We're going to start with Mike Siegel. It's going to be the same question for all of you. Please describe your past involvement with issues or projects within the purview of the Austin City Council and the City of Austin. Please be specific about how you have engaged with City Council, staff, or boards and commissions. Sure. Describe your past involvement with issues or projects within the purview of the Austin City Council and the City of Austin. Please be specific about how you have engaged with City Council, staff, or boards and commissions.
Well, I worked for City Hall for 4 years as a city attorney. One of my proudest moments was suing Governor Abbott on behalf of the city to stop Senate Bill 4 in 2017, which was this hateful anti-immigrant law, and got to work with a lot of stakeholders in the community. I wrote policy. I was a co-author of our paid sick leave ordinance here in Austin. As a community advocate, I have been a co-leader of Ground Game Texas, which passed a ballot measure in 2021 to decriminalize marijuana in the city of Austin and to ban no-knock warrants. And more recently, I was a co-author of the Austin Police Oversight Act. I worked with Equity Action to draft that policy, and I'm currently representing Equity to enforce the police transparency provisions of that act. Actually, last Friday, we won an order here in Travis County that would get rid of the G file, which is the secret personnel file that police maintain on their officers. So I have a lot of experience both at the policymaking level as well as the organizing level here in Austin. Thank you.
We got to keep going or we're
Thank you.
gonna
Yes.
cut you off later.
So my involvement, I was 6 years on Planning Commission, 3 as chair. And like I said, we worked through a lot of the Code Next changes, a lot of the home changes. I would like to point out that work that gets done, it's not some high paid developer in the room telling us what to do. It was architects, local architects, infill developers. Those are the people that were in the room. And they really had Austin's trying to really solve this housing crisis was their focus of all of the teams. Again, we were not controlled by anybody with big money or big connections. It was all about doing what's best for our city. I had 30 years with the city and worked with council. One thing I'm really proud of is the C Home development. My team at Austin Energy, we cleaned up downtown, made it available for the new development you see today. We did wonderful things with air quality. We led climate change. That leadership is what I'll bring to you if I'm the next D7 council member. Thank you very much.
Mr. Powell. Mr. Powell. We're just going down the line. You can
I learned what
say
direction
your
the
name
line is,
again
y'all.
because there's a lot of you, but otherwise.
I
just
learned
go
what
down.
direction the line is, and again, I'm Adam Powell. So when I think about my experience here with at City Hall, a lot of it's as an advocate. I have testified a ton, especially in the past year. I think I missed 2 city council meetings. If you're there when city council's meeting, you'll see me there. And if you're curious about what I think on issues ranging from land development to trans rights to the Poet Laureate program, I've testified on a lot of those things. You can find those records. I would also say it's coming from the community to advocate towards the city. I mentioned the winter storm earlier. I brought folks together in North Shoal Creek so we could send a letter to Councilmember Poole's office saying what went well, what we think should be better. I've led a lot of efforts on fighting I-35 expansion. If you went to the Wider Won't Work rally with hundreds of folks coming out fighting I-35 expansion in our community, I was the MC of that. I've emceed their press conferences, been a volunteer and supporter. So it's advocacy coming from the community and then spending my time at City Hall showing folks and always being clear, not just what I believe, but how I would vote on the council dais.
I don't know if I'll be able to cover all the stuff I've done in the city in the last 7 years, but I'll try. So I'm still sitting commissioner as the appointed public safety commissioner for District 7, where I've been part of the process of understanding our public safety issues. And I think the most important thing when talking about how to find those issues is really asking the right questions. And I also serve on the Asian American Quality of Life Commission for the city as well. So I've had deep involvement in commissions along with my work with American Youth Works. During COVID, we actually organized bulk distribution with the Austin Latino Coalition to try to bring about bulk needs such as toilet paper and the basic needs that I've talked about before to people when we were having shortages, along with also being a foster for Austin Animal Center for the last 7 years, rehousing 7 dogs to great homes, and done a lot more than that. You can find out more again on my website about the work that I've done.
Yeah, so I really like this question because I believe that my civic journey is really shaped by my experience here in Austin. I moved here in 2016 as a naive 18-year-old to get a degree at UT, and I didn't vote in 2016. And I learned really quickly what the consequences of not being engaged in your civically engaged means. And so that was with the onset of my journey as far as getting involved in the community. I've been a college student commissioner, and I helped draft and voted on recommendations that council eventually sponsored, which called for a student needs assessment. I've also been involved in numerous neighborhood associations, include West Campus, Highland. I'm also a member of the Allendale Neighborhood Association. I also have served on the community review panel for Project Connect's anti-displacement initiative, which helps guide the funding for the displacement efforts that are being proposed by our community organizations. And I'm really committed to having a community-driven vision for my campaign that's clear as far as if you go on my website and under the advocacy tab, you can see the numerous initiatives that I've been involved in the community that range from cultural preservation to standing up for what the values that I believe in. And I hope you'll take the time to check that out. Thank you.
I've had extensive involvement with the city, going back to actually being one of the first leaders to lead an initiative to bring about single-member districts. I actually sued the city to bring about single-member districts unsuccessfully. I actually led efforts that led to the first sensitivity training by police in the city of Austin, and litigation that I brought led to several significant things. One of those is that the videos in police vehicles comes from litigation that I filed. The police monitor's office comes from litigation that I filed. Fair testing for police officers, actually for promotions, comes from litigation that I filed. I also have even litigated a case against Mr. Siegel in this situation. So he and I have go back a while on that. Further, I have another number of other activities with the city of Austin, but particularly I've been very concerned with what's occurred in terms of the Planning Commission and the voting on the Planning Commission not recognizing environmental issues, infrastructure issues, et cetera, that impacted the recent actions. And so I've been very much involved in many of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next set of questions, I'm going to ask a couple people the same question. We're going to have to do 90 seconds to get back a little bit on track here. So for Mr. Bledsoe and Mr. Bautista, we'll go first with Mr. Bledsoe and then with Mr. Bautista. What do you see as the key public safety issues for District 7 and how would you address them?
The key public safety issue is to bring about getting more police in the city of Austin, not just more police, but police who are reflective of the values in the city of Austin, because we have too many officers who don't live in Austin, who don't possess our values, who don't enforce the law in the way that we need to. We also need to look at the pay and the compensation for police, but we need to bring about a change in the culture of the police department, and that goes down to the bottom. You must start at the bottom and you must be intentional. We see the Lisa Tatum report where the city hired a very significant, outstanding, neutral lawyer, and that lawyer did an outstanding examination of the Austin Police Department and found all the problems with culture that existed, but it's as if that report never happened. There's also been a similar report done in reference to the training at the academy, and it's almost as if nothing happened. There's a culture of retaliation where individual officers don't feel as though they can actually be officers, where it's not really what you perform or the actions that you take, it's really what side you're on in terms of the actual discipline that occurs with you. So there needs to be a complete examination of the department, and I think the city council must take a leadership role, because when you see things don't happen, they're not happening for a reason. And I think the problem, in my opinion, is that the council has not weighed in adequately to change the culture at the department. I have the unique situation of not only having sued the department before, but representing many police officers of the city of Austin, white, black, and brown. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bautista, same question.
Yeah, so I think the council really needs to focus on a balancing approach to policing that involves reform. I'm sure you all know about the Austin Police Oversight Act, which was approved by voters and has been stalled, which we've received some clarification recently. I think we need to continue on those efforts to make sure that our police force is trained appropriately and is culturally sensitive to our community, because I think right now it's clear that it's not. As someone that has participated in protests, specifically in 2020, I know that police brutality is a real thing, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I think we need to have a deeper discussion around what is the plan for the Austin Police Department. The city is undergoing a strategic planning initiative for the police department. I went to a workshop a few months ago. I don't really know what's going on because there hasn't been much of an update since then. But my hope is that with a new chief and with the plan set in motion, we can come together to really envision a new police department for our city, because we want that. We clearly want change. And if I'm elected, I will be prepared to enact that change. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Powell and Mr. Shaw. And it'll be 90 seconds. I know I'm not doing it in order. I got him. So Mr. Powell, Mr. Shaw, much of an elected official's work centers on constituent casework. Do you have an experience with that? What have you seen work well, and how would you prioritize this if elected?
Beginning of that, I'm sorry.
Much of an elected official's work centers on constituent casework. Do you have any experience with that? What have you seen work well, and how would you prioritize this if elected? Mr. Powell, you're first, then Mr. Shaw.
You know, I think there's a few different ways you can approach the city council dais in that job. It can be a desk job, or it can be a job where you truly are out in the community doing what I'm doing right now as a candidate, knocking in a really, really massive amount of doors. So getting out to folks, finding them, not just the folks who can come down to City Hall and have that opportunity and privilege to do so, but making sure you're reaching a wide swath of your constituents. So it's not just being reactive, which that's important too. I've had on my website from day one that we're going to staff an active phone line, going to take constituent services really, really seriously at the office level. It's also being proactive to include voices who typically don't get involved at the local level. And when I look back in my experiences and ways that I've been, proactive to get people's feedback before, I think back to the time I worked with the state government and administered a $40 million grant to get rural nurses or nurses in rural schools that hadn't had them before. Those were schools where the superintendent isn't just the superintendent. He's driving the bus, he's coaching the tennis team, he's doing so many different things. So it was a lot of reaching out to those folks, finding out exactly how those nurses could benefit their schools, where that funding stream would come through, helping them through the paperwork. The secret is there's absolutely no secret to good constituent services and staying in touch with folks. So it's being proactive, it's being reactive in the way that you need to, staffing a phone line, being responsive, and then just always having that open door policy, not treating it as a desk job, but truly being in the community.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw?
Thank you. My experience as a project manager, I think will really help here. So whenever we have these large projects, you've got to reach out to stakeholders. You've got to go out to the communities that will be impacted by your project, because you're going to be affecting their livelihood and their business for a long time. So it's going out to those that are impacted. And you have to do that far in advance of when the issues actually come arise. So it's my staff will be involved with anticipating the issues that are going to be out there and reaching out to the communities. I would like to have my staff will have specific people that are appointed to each of the various neighborhoods, special interests like small business and others. And their job is very much to be out there in the communities and talk to them ahead of time. By the time we set up a public hearing, it's really too late. If you don't know what the issues are going to be before we have a public issue, then we fail the community. So in my campaign promise to be a uniter, not a divider, it is to get out there in the communities and work with them ahead of time before these issues become so inflammatory that we really have only done more to push us back instead of move us forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the last set of questions will be for Mr. Siegel and then for Mr. Nguyen. And same question. What is your assessment of Austin's efforts to meet the needs of neighbors experiencing homelessness? What should be the next steps? Mr. Siegel.
Well, I definitely support everything our city has done to address the homeless pandemic or crisis, I should say. From what I understand, in the last 15 years, the number of people living on the streets has more than tripled based on the point in time count. And so our city has done a lot to step up. We've approved bonds. We have massive investments in permanent supportive housing. We have a strong rapid rehousing program. We have shelters for as a last resort. We have strong social service programs. But of course, all of this is not enough. So what more can we do to mobilize resources? Well, frankly, I think it does start at the top. I mean, this is a national crisis. If you look at big cities across the country, there are tons of people living in the streets, especially post-COVID pandemic. And so really, one of the things that we need to do as potential council members, mayors, is we need to go to DC and try to get the president to do something, because we need a massive federal investment in housing across the country to address this crisis. The city has limited tools, right? Even though the city council and mayor gets most of the heat for homelessness, this is not a local problem. This is a state problem and a national problem. So to me, a lot of it's about organizing. Let's do the most we can. If we can approve additional bonds to build more housing for people, let's do that. But let's also raise the alarm at the regional level, at the state level, at the national level to get the support we need. Thank you.
I'll have to disagree with that. Being an emergency manager for almost 20 years now, all disasters start local, and we really need to go figure out the finite issues that are happening. One of the things I would probably, as someone that has worked with our unhoused neighbors and also been out there trying to provide them with food and resources, is that mental health continues to be an issue. It's not only an issue with our unhoused neighbors, but it's also a challenge that we're having with everyday people. And I think we really need to have the resources for people where they need them. And I think someone had mentioned it before, but we need to reach people where they are. And I think we do a very poor job of doing that. When I had a friend that became homeless, got evicted from their apartment, when we were looking for homeless resources for him, we had to drive down to Sunrise Navigation Center because there wasn't anything far up north where I am, north of 183, to provide those resources. And so one of the things that I would say is that we need to have services that are helping everyone throughout the entire city. And that includes the northern part of our district too, which tends to get forgotten or left behind. And that's really why I'm running for office, is to make sure that we have a voice for everyone, not just the people that have the power or the money to be able to speak. Again, I'd love to speak to y'all more about this. It is a very intimate topic to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for putting your hats in the ring. We appreciate your willingness to do that. I'm going to take just a minute or two here to get regrouped for the next group, and I'll be back in just a minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, folks. I know that a break is wonderful with all our friends here. We have a lot of people to get through. If we could get your attention. Ashika, you can come up here. I need to find Mark. Where did Mark go? Anne, can you get Mark? Folks, if we could have your attention again, please. Appreciate it. If we can have your attention, we're going to regroup again, please. If I can have the District 10 candidates up front, please. If I can have the District 10 candidates up here, please. Hello, how are you? Good to see you. So I need my timekeeper up here. He might add, as soon as my timekeeper gets up here. Hello. Hello. As soon as my timekeeper comes back, I need my timekeeper and then I can start. I need my timekeeper, Ann. I didn't see you guys, so I said we'd have a break. Okay, folks, we have a lot of folks who are candidates that we want to hear from. So if you could settle down, that would be great. For those who are just getting in here, my name is Allison Alter, and I actually currently represent District 10. And we're now going to be hearing from the candidates who are on the ballot for District 10 in November. We have Mark Dushin and Ashika Ganguly. What we're going to do is you are each going to have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, to say what you would like. And then I will ask you both the same question for 1 minute. And then we will have a second question as well. And I'm going to figure out our timing if that one's 90 or 2 minutes, 90 seconds or 2 minutes. So Mr. Duchin, you should go first, please. And I apologize if I am mispronouncing any of your names. Just correct us. Thank you. You can stand. Yes.
This election is vital. I'm running because I care deeply about this district that I've lived in for 24 years in our city. And this is a contest between my experience and my opponent's enthusiasm. My name is Mark Duchin. I'm the only candidate in this race that can bring a full 20+ years of experience working in politics, democratic politics, advocacy, technology, and also running a business for the last 8 years. And I also bring another 8 and 10 years of experience working in the civic space, working on boards and commissions. And the reality is we don't have time for a learning curve. Our challenges in the city are too big, too many, and too immediate. My opponent wants to listen to your feedback and process it. I've already been doing this for 10 years on my HOA, digging into budgets, working on infrastructure projects, making sure our community is safe and they can get around. I've also been testifying at the council. I've been advocating at the Capitol. I've already been listening to us and trying to advocate and fight for our interests. This race is about standing up for our district and our city, our priorities, our people, making sure that we are representing our people and not outside special interest in those groups and their money. I'm proud to be the only candidate in this race where the vast majority of my supporters, my endorsements, and my dollars are from District 10 residents. It's also about continuing the work of our current council member on important issues like protecting our parks, protecting our neighborhoods, protecting us from wildfires. I want to continue that work. I'm the best Democrat in this race. That's why so many folks in District 10 have endorsed me. I've spent years working out in the field in Texas, helping elect Democrats, turning it blue. I've helped turn much of West Austin blue. I voted in every single Democratic primary going back over 10 years, including voting for both police oversight. I'm the only candidate that voted for both police oversight elections, as well as voted for both crucial District 10 runoffs between Democrats and Republicans. So I thank you so much for having me here, and I hope to earn your support.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate all of our clubs for hosting us today. My name is Ashika Gangley. I'm running for Austin City Council District 10 in West Austin. I grew up in the city, and like many people here, I've seen good changes, bad changes, and everything in between. I started my career here in Austin as a classroom teacher because I felt strongly that I wanted to serve my community. Throughout my time in the classroom, I saw so many different policy issues affecting my students' lives and their families' lives, whether it was transit access, housing, affordability, public safety, or childcare. I saw firsthand how public policy truly does shape our lives and affect our success. After year 5, I made the difficult decision to leave the classroom and pursue a career in public policy. I got my master's in policy at the University of Texas, and I currently serve as legislative director for State Representative John Busey. Through my time at the legislature, I've worked on crafting meaningful policy with stakeholder engagement and listening to our constituents. I've also seen the state continue to try to preempt local control and to try to squash the progressive nature of the city of Austin. I think it's important now more than ever that we have strong local leadership for Austin, and I've been endorsed in this journey by leading Democratic leaders such as State Representative John Busey, James Tellerico, and Cheryl Cole, as well as current council members Paige Ellis, Ryan Alter, Zoe Kadri, Jose Velasquez, and former council member Ann Kitchen. I also have the honor of being endorsed by the Central Labor Council and AFSCME as a strong pro-labor and workers' rights candidate. I believe in creating more housing and more types of housing in different areas of Austin so people can afford to build their lives here, and my opponent does not. I believe in more transit options so Austin remains connected and so that people can get and move towards a more car-free lifestyle, and my opponent does not. I believe in holistic, people-centered approach to homeless services, and my opponent has been a proponent of cutting spending to our homeless services budget. There's a clear choice in this election. I ask for your vote. Please join me in moving Austin forward instead of taking us back.
Thank you. So we'll go in the reverse order, and you'll each have 1 minute. Please describe your past involvement with issues or projects within the purview of the Austin City Council and the City of Austin. Please be specific about how you've engaged with City Council, staff, or boards and commissions, and to the extent possible, also whether it related to District 10. 1 minute. Ms. Ganguly.
Like I said, I've spent every minute of my adult life working to serve our community, whether that was through the classroom or working at the university level as a program coordinator, working in the childcare policy space, or now at the legislature, creating policy, working through our 88th session and all 4 special sessions, fighting against vouchers and anti-immigrant reform. I've worked on real issues that affect real people here in Austin and in Texas, and I'm prepared to take the same collaborative nature and scrupulous nature that I have built at the legislature to the Austin City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Dushan.
My city journey.
Has to be on green. There you go.
My city journey started 19 years ago. I helped elect Betty Dunkerley to the city council back then, and that was my first foray into city issues. And since then, 10 years ago, I joined my HOA board, and that's been also a foray into city issues. In fact, one thing that we worked with Allison's office and Austin Water on was making sure that we were being appropriately billed by Austin Water. We've saved over $150,000 a year at my HOA association through that work. And we've had many meetings with the mayor and council on various issues, from public safety, from homelessness to the convention center. I've testified at council many times, going back 8 years, regarding the Austin Oaks PUD, to more recently 4 times on the home initiative, hoping to get a more balanced land use policy that was more reflective of Austin, that had more affordability components in there, and that never happened, unfortunately. But we've also met with council on a whole lot of issues, as well as the mayor and city staff, trying to advocate for community interests, everything from transit, homelessness, mobility, and so on. And I hope to keep doing that as your next council member.
Thank you. So this second question, which will be our last one for each of you, we're going to do 90 seconds just to keep us on time. What do you see as the key priorities for District 10? How do they differ from the city as a whole? How do you plan to advocate for the specific needs of your district while still balancing the overall needs of the city? Mr. Duchin, you can go.
So there's a lot of priorities I think we need to focus on, but chief among them are wildfire prevention, which is a huge issue for District 10. There are safety issues for the city across the board. There's land use issues, which we just touched on. And frankly, there's spending and affordability issues that impact everybody's ability to afford to stay in this great city. And so regarding wildfire issues, I hope to work and continue a lot of Allison's policies. Frankly, we've got more fires that happen east of Mopac than west of Mopac. And this is a citywide issue. I'd love to be an advocate on council and continue her work and make sure that this is prioritized, because it's not a case of if it'll happen, it's a case of when it'll happen. I've served on the Wildfire Alliance. I've been to the wildfire symposiums. I've already been involved in this issue for a long time, and I'm sure I'm the only candidate that can lead on this issue. There are safety issues. We've downed 350 plus officers. I've put forth several proposals to try and better optimize our officers' time, because it's going to take years to figure out how to get proper staffing at APD. As far as land use, we touched on some home things, but really it's about making sure that we've got a really balanced policy. Council, that means building density near transit corridors and near existing density as the Imagine Austin plan calls for in the growth concept map. And then finally, there are spending issues. We've basically increased or doubled our spending rate over the last 5 years. And this is impacting everybody's ability to stay here. I hope to be able to advocate for better policies for sunset commissions, for audits, for making sure that we're connecting dollars to results. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I think that this is a great question. District 10 is a pretty unique area of Austin. It's one that's home to many of the most scenic areas of the city, many environmentally protected and environmentally sensitive lands, and is home to the most number of longtime Austin residents in the city. My opponent's correct that the number one thing that I hear about when I'm knocking on the doors is public safety. And we have a clear issue with APD and making sure that we are supporting our officers while also making sure our city is getting what we need. I'm going to prioritize public safety in a three-pronged approach. Number one is our police academy and training. I took a ride out with APD a few weeks ago and heard from the officers firsthand how they really felt that a lot of their cadets were unprepared and untrained to be out on the streets. We have to have a robust training program and a strong academy that is putting the kind of officers that we want protecting us with a guardian-like mentality on the streets. Number two, is pay and recruitment. We have to be paying our officers to keep up with the cost of living here in Austin. That also goes along with housing. Many of the officers that I spoke to during my ride out spoke about how they do not live in the city limits. Why would you work in Austin Police Department when you could work in Cedar Park and live in Cedar Park, not have to commute an hour every day, you get paid the same, and you can afford to live there? We have to make it so that Austin is affordable to our essential workers. And number three is culture and morale. We have to be able to be investing in our officers so that they feel valued while also having the accountability piece on the other side so that our citizens feel safe and trusted.
Thank you. Unfortunately, with all of the candidates that we have this afternoon, that's all the time that we have. Thank you both very much for being here. If anyone wants to talk to them, they will be out back that way so we can continue our program. Thank you. So next up, we have Austin Community College, place 9. I saw Julie Nitch. I don't know who else. Is Mr. Sefton here? Okay, great. So moving forward with our next set of candidates, we have Austin Community College trustee, place 9. We have incumbent Julie Nitch, and then we have Mr. Joseph Sefton. You will each have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the clubs, and then we will do questions. So Ms. Snitch, if you could go first, please, 2 minutes. You're on my list as first, so we're just going that way.
My name is Julianne Nitch. I've been your ACC trustee since 2016. My advocacy goes back far before that. I was on the Leadership and Advocacy Council for Planned Parenthood. I've been working with the Texas Democratic Party for a very long time as both a young Democrat and on progressive campaigns. I was on the Transportation Committee of Quality of Life for Austin, for Austin City Council, where I worked on transportation issues, which are very important to me. I was a bus rider for 11 years, and that's just part of the experience I bring to this board. As someone that was a non-traditional student that grew up in a home where she did not have support, that grew up in poverty, that struggled to go back to school, dropping out and going back in and paying out of your own paycheck, having to ride a bus, not having family support, having family members that struggled with mental health. These are all things that I've advocated for. When I first ran, I said that I would work on childcare because that's the best way you can stop the spiral of poverty, is to help parents. I doubled the amount of money and resources that we put into childcare now. I said that I would work on transportation. I successfully negotiated a new contract with Cap Metro so that all our students get free bus routes. I've also improved these stops. I also said that I would work on labor concerns. I've recently renegotiated the contracts with adjuncts, so they're getting paid for what they deserve to get paid for. Well, not what they deserve, but at least the hours that they work for the 2 weeks before and the 2 weeks at the end. I've worked tirelessly to promote mental health access, healthcare access, looking into the programs that we need in our community, and focusing on those programs and expanding those programs that will actually benefit our community. I've been an advocate for sexual assault survivors. I've been an advocate for LGBTQ rights. I've worked with the unhoused population with Travis County, where during the pandemic, I moved over 1,000 pounds a week by myself of food and water. I don't just use this position. Oh, I'm already out. Wow. It's been a while since I've campaigned. That was quick. Thank y'all.
Mr. Sefton.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Sefton. Thank you for coming. I was a chief information security officer at Austin Community College. I did 4 years. I started a cybersecurity program at the college from the ground up. When I was there, there's like nothing. And I'm now retired. I have children that attended Austin College. My idea here is I'm a technologist. I've worked at ACC, so I know the issues that are happening within ACC. Not only from a technology perspective, but from a classroom perspective, from an internship perspective. So there's some big gaps between and disconnects between what's happening at ACC and the board of directors. I'm not saying all board of directors are bad. I'm saying we just need to infuse some technology in the board of directors, especially with artificial intelligence that's becoming very disruptive. Students need to learn about it. I've seen some budget issues coming from internal ACC that need to be reviewed from a board perspective to see what's going on. There's a lot of bun money and a lot of money coming from taxes that really there's no accountability, and that's it's also a lot of gaps. So the idea here was for me to, now that I'm retired and I have the time, I've been in leadership for well over 15, 20 years, that there needs to be some changes, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you both the same question, and you're going to have 90 seconds to answer. And Mr. Sefton, you can go first. Last session, the legislature shifted community college funding to outcomes rather than enrollment. Alamo College in San Antonio, with its high graduation rates, received 5 times more new state money than ACC. How would ACC ensure more students graduate? Mr. Sefton. Sure, and this was a question that was given to me, so I apologize if my numbers are somehow off. Last session, the legislature shifted community college funding to outcomes rather than enrollment. Alamo College in San Antonio, with its high graduation rates, received 5 times more new state money than ACC. How would ACC ensure more students graduate?
this is the issue that I've been fighting at ACC. The issue is that we don't have a lot of internship programs at ACC. We don't have the right curriculum at ACC. Like I stated earlier, AI, information technology, cyber, those are things that people and jobs are out there that people can gravitate and make money. And there's thousands of jobs out there, so they can, once they graduate, they can get a job. The idea here is that there's a disconnect between the board of directors and what's really happening out in the marketplace. So the idea here is that we need somebody that has that experience. I've done internships there at ACC. I'm the only person that does it for cyber at ACC while I was there. There's even a disconnect with internal ACC where there's gaps in processes. And unless you haven't been in that world, that ecosystem is what I call that within ACC, you won't understand it. So the idea also, budgets are also not correctly adjusted to what's happening in our world. And that's one of the reasons I'm running.
Thank you.
I'd like to go ahead and answer the question. The reason why we're not seeing those rates is because we judge them differently. We have metrics by which we judge completion rates. In ACC, we have a lot of transferred out students, right? So what we need to do is we need to think about how we're judging our completion rates, and there are ways to do that within the legislature, and that is something that I have worked on. And to your point, we're a board of trustees, not a board of directors. And I have to question your ability with tech if you can't Google my board and find out that Nan McRaven was on the board of Motorola for 25 years. Gigi Edwards Bryant literally ran information technologies. And Dana Walker oversees all AI for a little company called Meta. To say that we don't have technology on our board is absurd. There are women on that board that are incredibly capable and frankly know a lot more than I think a basic bachelor's in computer science would give someone. There are women on my board that are incredibly smart, incredibly intelligent, and they work in AI too. And that is not the reason why we don't have completion rates. It's the metrics by which we judge this. And we're working on that. I've gone to the legislature. I'm there every session. If you've been there, I'm testifying against something to try to figure out the metrics and change that so that we're getting credited for the students that are transferring out, because we do a lot of transfer. We work with Tech, we work with UT, we work with Texas State, and we have transfer academies. So we're not getting credit for those transfers, but it's not actually our completion rate. It's just the metrics.
Thank you. So we'll go, Ms. Nitch will go first, and then Mr. Sefton. This will be the last question, 90 seconds. Central Texas is seeing a boom of job opportunities in chip fabrication, electronics, advanced manufacturing, and similar fields. Yet not enough students are entering these fields. How would you ensure ACC can recruit sufficient students to meet the need? How will you ensure ACC prepares them adequately? Ms. Nitch.
Yes, so right now we're working on building a new campus. I hope you've heard of it. It's going to be where we should have had a campus a long time ago in Del Valley. That is going to be where we have a lot of our manufacturing. Thank you. And I've also supported the Make It Center. I would really, really highly encourage y'all, you're not far from it, go over to Highland campus, go to the Make It Center and learn how to do things that are fun and exciting. Take your kids. We bring grade school all the way to high school students there. And we teach them about manufacturing. We teach them about electronics or electrical work. We teach them about plumbing. You can literally go in and use a, what do you call it? The virtual reality and see what it's like to actually wire up and become an electrician. What we really have to do though, is I think we have to do a lot more outreach. That's something that I speak to my board a great deal about as someone that came from working class where college wasn't really going to be an option, is we have to tell those students, one, that you don't necessarily have to go and get a bachelor's degree. There will always need to be plumbers. There will always need to be electricians, and manufacturing is a really, really, really hot job right now. So that is why I have pushed for the manufacturing degree. That's why we now have a bachelor's degree. I've also worked on that, and these are issues that are close to our community, and those are the issues that I am fighting for, and that I will continue to fight for.
Thank you.
As I stated earlier, there's a disconnect between what's happening with the board of directors and what's happening in reality. If you go to the campuses, across many of campuses, you look at classrooms and they are empty, right? They're using old technology that's been outdated for over a decade. Some of them you probably haven't even heard, so it's really old technology. What needs to happen is we need to get a reality of what's really happening. In fact, if you look at some of our campuses, some of them are outsourced by either other companies or other corporations or just all small little businesses. What needs to happen, I think, is more assessments being done of exactly what is needed. Do we really need another building? Or can we leverage some of the buildings? We need to save the money, save taxpayer money, and get the right people to do some right assessments to see what is right for incoming students, what is growing in the marketplace for jobs for new students to get, not only in this market, but other markets. And we need to infuse those technologies within those colleges. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is all the questions that we have time for, given all of the candidates that we have. Thank you both very much for being here. I'll just remind folks that there are people online watching as well. Thank you very much for being here, both of you. We will now take AISD Place 2. Thank you very much. We are now going to introduce AISD Place 2, and we have two candidates that are here, Sarah Ivory and Larissa Quintana. And you're each going to have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and then we'll move to questions and answers for a brief period. Ms. Ivory, if you'd like to go first, please.
Hi, I'm Sarah Ivory. I'm running for District 2 School Board for Austin ISD. I am a career educator. I've been in public schools since I was 22 years old. I started out as a teacher, and then I was a behavior specialist, an administrator, a coach, and now I'm a new teacher mentor. And I'm passionate about education. I have a master's degree in education. I was a Pettis Award winner for excellence in education early in my career. And I'm also an Austin ISD parent. I have 2 kids who are currently enrolled in Austin ISD and another one who will be enrolled in a couple of years when he's old enough. And we love the district so much. I care deeply about the school board, both because of my career path, but also because I know that what happens in the boardroom directly affects my family and my community, and I feel strongly about that. So I would love to be a part of it, and I feel like a huge part of my own community, and we benefit from the school board as well. I'm part of the Dove Springs community in D2. We've lived there for a long time. We brought home all 3 of our children to our house in Dove Springs, and we love it, and we are deeply invested there. And we also directly reflect the community in Dove Springs. My husband is Black, our kids are biracial, and every decision that we make for our kids is grounded in making sure that they feel included and they feel a part of what they're doing and that they have an opportunity to be successful. So it's a job that we do not take lightly. I care about 3 things for my position on the Board of Trustees. I want to improve teacher or staff compensation and job satisfaction. I want to increase our literacy with proven programs that are data-driven, like Literacy First. And I want to increase our pre-K offerings so that we can intervene early and support our families in the way that they need to be supported. And I'm almost out of time, but thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larissa Quintana. I am running for school board in District 2. I am a native Austinite and AISD graduate. I was raised just off Cameron Road with my Aunt Paula after I moved here after having spent a year in foster care. I went to Pierce Middle School in 6th grade, and then I was lucky enough to attend Deanne Richards School, where I was a part of the first graduating class in 2013. And as amazing as that school is with all of its tools and its resources, those items should not be just in that school. In our District 2 schools, which are mostly Title I, we need those resources in every school. I know what it looks like when our school district steps up and takes care of the whole child, because I am a product of that. I've spent my working life in policy and community. I was campaign manager for Councilman Fuentes in 2020. I was the campaign manager for the affordable housing bond in 2022. And I serve on American Youth Works Board. And I'm also very proud to be endorsed by Education Austin, the Austin Liberal Democrats, and the Central Labor Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So you'll now have, it's gonna be the same question for both of you, and you will each have a minute to answer it, and we'll start with Ms. Quintana. AISD trustees voted to ask voters for a tax increase to offset a very large deficit. This will mean a yearly increase of $408 for a home appraised at $553,493. If the increase in tax rate goes through, AISD will be able to keep $41 million of the $171 million generated. Do you support AISD's Proposition A, voter approval tax rate election, VATRA, on the November ballot? Why or why not?
I do support their choice in bringing it to our voters. I think it's very important that they have a say in this. At the end of the day, we are in a crisis because Greg Abbott, TEA, and the state of Texas has put us in that crisis. I know firsthand what it's like to be at the Capitol and to be in these rooms. And it requires someone who really knows how our process works, the relationships and dynamics with key members. Unfortunately, this is our best option right now. Our teachers deserve a raise, our staff does, and we especially want to be able to take care of our teachers in District 2. So while it is not the most shiny option we have, it is the only option we have, and we have to basically save ourselves because the state of Texas is not coming to save us.
Thank you.
I also support Vader. As a former public school teacher, I know how hard it is to make a living, especially in Austin, and how hard it is to support a family as a teacher. And so I truly believe that the bottom line for improving public schools is that we've got to pay our teachers better. Nothing is going to get better until they can live and survive and be paid, compensated fairly. However, I also agree that it's a painful situation. It's a painful choice to make because we're still paying this government that's not supporting us and is actively trying to hurt us, but we're bleeding out and we need to stop the flow so that we can fight back. And the way that we stop the flow is by passing Vader and then starting the fight again and hopefully changing our current leadership so that this isn't an issue in the future for our district.
Thank you. The next question, I think we're going to have 90 seconds for just with our timing. Previous administrators have not had much success in elevating the performance of Black and Brown students. As a board member, what steps would you take to change this? Ms. Ivory, first.
I am deeply invested in literacy. I think that literacy is the foundation of all education. If our kids can't read, they can't do really anything else. We've got to teach them how to read. And there are programs that are proven through data to work to support students to learn how to read. One of them is Literacy First, and we don't currently have that in all of our schools. But I've watched Literacy First in action. I've seen TAs go from completely and not knowing anything about literacy instruction to becoming some of our strongest teachers because of that program and the way that it works. So bringing in programs like that, we live in Austin and we have incredible access to universities who have these data-driven programs that can help us out. And so we've got to focus on improving our literacy in our D2 schools and getting those programs out there that we know will help them. In addition, we have to support our SPED department. Our SPED department is struggling right now. We need more staff. We need better compensation. We need more TAs. Our staff needs more time to partner with families so that they can explain this really convoluted language that's in IEPs and in ARD meetings. Right now, they don't have time for that. So families feel like they don't know what's going on and they don't know how to advocate. And that makes it really difficult for our students to survive. But if we support those students at the margins, our SPED students, our students of color, then we're bringing all of the students up together and everyone will be successful.
Thank you.
As a student who went to a Title I school in Eastside, I know what it's like to not have all of the tools and resources at home. I think we need to start by making sure that our kids have everything they need to excel in their homes before they can come and thrive in school. I was lucky enough when I was at the Ann Richards School that they had a program and they gave me a laptop. And so I was able to go home and use this and work on this at home. And somebody even came over and taught my aunt how to turn it on and how to use it, and God bless her. And so these are the things that we need to be doing. We have to create wraparound services to make sure that our students are taken care of so that they feel confident and they feel up to the task of actually being in school and learning. It's hard to be in school if you're hungry. It's hard to be in school if your parents in jail or they died. It's hard to be in school, even in our schools, like Martin doesn't have a working AC right now. It's hard to be in school if you're freezing or if you're sweating, right? These are the basic things that have to happen. And then we can talk about what programs can we make to help them get to where they want to be.
Thank you. So given our time constraints, that's all the questions that we're able to ask today, but thank you both for running. We appreciate it. And thank you. I'm glad. I think I got a couple wrong today, but I appreciate that. Thank you. So if I could invite AISD Place 8 at large to come up, that would be great. And if you can tell me your name, so I don't know most of you, that would be great. If you can just sit down there in front, and when you speak, you'll share those clickers. Those are the microphones. You just need to click on them and they will turn green. You only have to click once to get it to be green when you're speaking. Hold it up fairly close to you because we do have people who are watching virtually as well. We're going to start by giving each of you 2 minutes to speak. And I have an order that was given to me. Again, I don't know if this is ballot order or where it comes from, but if you can stand, make sure you restate your name as well. That would be great. You'll have 2 minutes, and then we'll do some questions. Dylan Sky McAdams, you can go first, please.
Thank you. This working? Hi, everyone. Before I start, I just want to say that it's been an honor to be invited out to come and speak with all of you today. My name is Dylan Sky McAdams. I'm a candidate for AISD Board of Trustees at large position 8. And I'm a community organizer, I'm an activist, and I'm a coalition builder who has spent the past 3 years organizing protests and mutual aid drives throughout the city of Austin. Through this experience, I've gained knowledge and experience of working with a lot of different interests and backgrounds of different groups. These groups span from the Austin Justice Coalition to the Palestine Solidarity Committee to the Sunrise Movement Austin. And through working with them, I was able to learn how to manage conflicting goals and interests, as well as maintain a commitment to supporting positive change wherever possible. My one and only priority, if elected to this position, would be to better the lives of every individual in the district in every way possible. Now, I know that sounds really broad and really far out to try and accomplish, so for simplicity's sake, I've narrowed down that goal into 3 main points which I believe are necessary to accomplish. Firstly, we must guarantee free lunch to all students in the district. Secondly, we must increase police transparency and oversight throughout the district. And last, but certainly not least, we need to work to increase the resources available for both students and staff at Title I schools throughout our district. Now, I'm well aware that these might sound like pie-in-the-sky ideas to shoot for, but I promise that they are all achievable. And if you're interested in learning more about me, as well as the policies that I hope to achieve, you should check out my website, skyforaisd.com, where I have a policy page as well as an About Me page that goes into a little more info on the policies. That policy page is also going to be updated over the coming days with even more information. I'm running to inspire change and fight for a greener, more equal Austin. And if that sounds like something you could get behind, I would appreciate your support in this upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Amy Moore.
Hi, thanks everybody for hosting this forum and for staying with it a couple hours now into the session. I'm Amy and I am running also for the at-large district position 8 for AISD. And I'm running because I'd like to put my 20+ years of Austin ISD experience to use in service to the district. I've been a nonprofit partner in of the district. I've been a parent volunteer, and I'm also obviously then the mom of 3 Austin ISD grads. During my time as a nonprofit partner, I worked at Austin Partners in Education for about 15 years, managing different programs, the last of which was AISD's Gear Up grant. API provided the tutoring services at 11 Title I middle schools and 7 Title I high schools. I've seen the challenges of AISD almost on a daily basis up close, working alongside teachers and students. I believe also that AISD has a lot of challenges, and I kind of lump those into 3 categories. The first is finances. We have a budget crisis. There's no getting around that. We've got to work on that. I do believe that there's ways to do that and still pay our teachers and our staff, and also we've got to boost our enrollment. I believe we've got to work on the climate of AISD. There's still a need. There are parts of the city that don't feel included in our district. We need to have increased parent engagement, community involvement. We need to make sure that teachers and staff choose AISD as their favorite place to work. We also need to work on our academic equity. In my time as a Gear Up manager, I saw lots of inequities across our district, whether or not that was classrooms without teachers, classrooms without AC, whatever it happened to be. There are ways to fix this. I'm running because I do believe in the power of Austin ISD and the community to come together to solve these issues. I think that I would like to be part of that movement to make sure that Austin ISD is succeeding in making sure all children thrive in their post AISD career. Thank you. More. Yes, thank you.
Lindsay Stringer.
Hi there. I'm Lindsay Stringer. I am from Austin. I grew up here. I'm an AISD graduate. I'm an AISD parent and volunteer. I have 19 years of professional experience in public education, first as a 5th grade teacher, and now I'm currently, this is a mouthful, the Vice President of Technology and Business Operations for the National Math and Science Initiative. I'm running for AISD Trustee 8 because I want to ensure that AISD actually lives up to its mission to ensure that every student is prepared to thrive in college, career, and life, and that is not happening right now. Last year, 8 out of 10 economically disadvantaged students who took Algebra 1 did not meet the expectations for that class. And you have just a 1 in 5 chance of graduating from high school if you don't pass Algebra 1. That's not okay. The families of 4 out of 10 students who live in our boundaries are saying no to attending our schools. And we have one of the lowest starting pay rates for new teachers in our entire region. And that's saying something because Texas does not pay its teachers very well. All of these challenges are interconnected, and they have to be solved in a systematic way. We have to ensure high outcomes for all students. We need to increase parent and community engagement, and we have to improve the financial stability of the district. My systems thinking and strategic problem solving, along with my very deep experience at all levels of education as a teacher in classrooms, in districts, at the state and policy levels, are key strengths that I bring to the board to ensure that everyone counts. Thank you.
Fernando.
Hello, everybody. I'm Fernando Lucas de Arioste. I'm running for the at-large seat. I'm running because I believe in the power of education to change lives. For about 20 years now, I've been fighting to make sure that that opportunity is provided to every student. After 20 years, I'm ready to bring that passion to AISD. I moved to Austin in '96. I'm from DFW. I went to UT. I've been here ever since. I love the city. I started teaching. I've been in AISD 9 years before I moved on and became an advocate. I felt I could do a little bit more. I just needed to do more. and 10 years in advocacy, families across the state. I became the Director of Advocacy Services at the Circle Law Group. I'm the Vice President of the Texas Organization of Parents, Attorneys, and Advocates. Spent time doing outreach, doing lobbying at the Capitol, fighting the voucher bill, going to IEP meetings in districts across the state. I'm endorsed by Education Austin. I'm endorsed by the CLC. I've been endorsed by liberal Austin Democrats. And I really think a big part of those endorsements was due to my work as an advocate. The issues I see in Austin are not actually that unique compared to the districts I see. It's a lot has to do with the insufficient per student allotment and the recapture and the effects that has in districts across the state. What I do see as unique in Austin is the opportunity to write a new chapter on that story. Austin's done really well under governance. It's not done yet. And what I believe we need to do to really excel with that is tie the community back to the schools. We need to have the hourly staff and teachers, the families, the administration all working together. Right now, education is an uphill battle in Texas, but if we all push together, that's the way we're going to move forward. The TRE is a great example of that. Nobody likes it, but we all kind of understand that we have to do it. And one of the reasons we have to do it is because we owe it to the students. It's about the kids there. And that's the type of energy I want to bring to the board seat. I want to bring unity and bring the families and the staff back to the table together.
My next. Oh. Hi, everyone. My name is Nathaniel Holman, and I'm a police officer at Austin Community College. I don't think you're on.
Nate, push the button. Yeah, hold it down. Yes, hold it down.
Nathaniel Holman. Oh, just one time. I'm also the Classified Employee Association president, and I've been a member of American Federation of Teachers for over 10 years. So I am passionate about improving the conditions of employees for the school district. I graduated from Skyline High School as a valedictorian. I was valedictorian of my police academy. I understand what it takes to be successful in school, understanding the systems and having the inspiration and the resources to make sure that students are successful. One thing that I've noticed as a police officer, and I'm also a licensed real estate agent, is the poverty of our students. I live in the Runberg area, and making sure that our teachers and our students have the resources that they need to be successful. And if we don't address the basic needs of our students and the basic needs of our teachers, then how can you expect the teachers to be inspired to educate our children? And how can you expect the children who are homeless and have their lights shut off and their electricity shut off to be able to go to school and be successful? So we have to address the basic needs, and we can't solve the housing crisis. It's too expensive. But one thing that I do propose is that every government institution, every single building that's owned by a government institution needs to be able to provide showers to give people the dignity to go to work, to go to school, and things like that. And that's something we can do that's a minimal cost, but I think every government institution needs to chip in little by little to address these issues. There's also technology. We need to improve our technology at the school district, used by our teachers, but also used by our students. Technology is the future, and we can't just shut off their phones. They have to engage in technology. And one other thing that I think is pretty important is we need to utilize the resources that we have. Austin Independent School District, despite the challenges, is very large, almost $1 billion budget, over 100 schools, thousands of employees, thousands of students. We need to use these resources of the people and the land to push ASD forward, to make sure we meet the needs of the future. So we have a lot of power in these people and the land that we have at ASD. And we've got to figure out a way to solve these problems by creating task forces to address each issue. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask this question of all of you, and you'll have 1 minute to answer. And we're just going to go down the road from Mr. Lucas DeRosta first, and then that way. Voters approved bonds for AISD in 2017 and 2022. As a trustee, how will you keep voter confidence in bond projects by delivering what was promised to voters?
Wow. I think this goes back to the transparency piece and making sure that we're doing the outreach and the communication with the community so that they can see the projects as they're unfolding. I think
is your mic on green? Okay.
We need to make sure that all the stakeholders feel like they have a place at the table and that they're seeing how the bond money is being used. I think it goes to the confidence in the budget and the confidence in the way that the district's using the money. I think we need to continue the efforts that we've done. Yeah.
That's fine. It's fine if you take less time, because that'll give us more time later. Next, please, Ms. Moore.
I echo what Fernando says. This kind of goes, I was an accounting major at UT a long, long time ago. And one of the things that most people want to know when you give somebody a budget to spend their money is, where did it go? And I think AISD does a good job of trying to get some of that information out. It's just it maybe doesn't always go to the right places. You know, I was a parent in 2017, and parents want to know where the money was spent. They want to know where, did they spend it all the way they said they were going to? Did we get anything cheaper than we thought we were going to? Was everything more expensive? Those types of things, I believe, are the things that we would move ourselves forward. We have bond oversight committees that do that. It's just a matter, we've got to figure out a way to get the information to the people. Several folks have talked about how much Austin's grown. A lot of our old channels of communication don't always work the same as we thought they did. So we just need to look for those new ways. We want to make sure we keep ensuring the bonds, because when AISD does get those bonds, we do spend the money well. We just need to make sure the community knows it.
Thank you. Next, please.
It's hard to follow up on those two as well, because I agree very much so. It's one of my 3 pillars. It's better parent and community engagement, because as they've both said, like there are ways to improve how we're talking about the successes we've had in terms of the bonds. And I would like to do more in terms of explaining how those capital improvements, those campus facility improvements, actually translate to better learning environments and hopefully better student outcomes as well. Those are dots we have to connect for people who aren't necessarily as close to our public schools. We have things like placards that go up in front of schools saying, these are your bond dollars at work. That's great. If you have students who go to that school and you're dropping your kids off or picking them up. But for a lot of people, they don't drive by those things. So we need better ways, more successful means of communication. We more frequent communication, so that the next time we do another bond, people can clearly understand, this was how my money was the last time, and I want to support it going forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe ASD will never fail if we serve the community. So we definitely need to engage more with the community. We need to have more feedback with the board. We need to have more input from the stakeholders in the community to solve all of these problems. We need to make sure that we don't forget the power that we have to address these concerns to serve the public. So with all the bond money that we're going to be receiving, that's certainly a hardship to the taxpayers, but we have to provide value and show that not only are we serving ASD students, ASD staff, but I think we need to provide more resources to the community in general. You know, we collect money from the property taxpayers, from everyone. And if we show that value by improving our school district and improving the public by providing more resources to them, then they will never let us fail. They'll support that bond. But we have to make sure that we have special task force and committees to address issues, because I don't know everything. No one knows everything. We've got to listen to people who've been there, the teachers, the individuals in the community. We got to partner with other members of the public, the businesses, even other governments and other entities to help solve these problems and use that bond money wisely. Thank you.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Sure. Voters approved bonds for AISD in 2017 and 2022. As a trustee, how will you keep voter confidence in bond projects by delivering what was promised to voters?
So I believe that the issue with our bond projects currently and with voter confidence in those bond projects isn't necessarily a lack of the projects meeting their goals, lack of the projects doing what we're setting out to accomplish when we launch them, but rather that they are seen as kind of invisible to the general public. Unless you're clued into the schools, unless you're clued into all of the networking groups, all of the parent-teacher groups, all of the advocate groups, you don't really know what's happening in our schools outside of the random articles that get written when something does go wrong or something that goes bad. From that perception, that leads to our current enrollment crisis, where people who aren't already in the loop on schools, all they hear is about how bad AISD schools are and all these different problems that we're struggling with and going through. And then they hear about how they're sending more and more money to the schools. I believe to fix this perception problem and help our enrollment problem, we need to launch media initiatives and campaigns highlighting the actual goal, the actual efforts done by our staff and our students at low-income schools and schools that are struggling and receiving bonds so that people in the public will be able to know what their money is going towards. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now have 1 minute for the next question. This will be the last question with our timing. Thank you, Mark, for going along with me here. And we're going to start on this end, and I'm going to ask a couple of you this question, and then I'm going to ask some other questions as we go for different people. So for the first two of you on this end, Austin ISD has faced ongoing challenges with meeting the needs of students within special education programs. What would you like to see improved here?
So I have a lot longer history with special education programs than one would think, given how young I am. My mom has been a public school teacher for the last 20 years and a special education teacher for the last 15 of those. So growing up, I was able to see firsthand how much effort special education teachers put into their class and put into their students, as well as how little they get back from the district and support and care, and from schools and support and care. To help special education and increase the resources for special education students throughout the district, I believe that we must first focus on helping out and increasing the resources for special education teachers throughout the district, because they are some of the most overworked and understaffed individual groups throughout our district. My mom has talked to me many times about how she has to leave her designated meeting time and designated break time to go work on ARDS and go work on special reports. In conclusion, we just need to send more funds to special education teachers to help special education students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAdams. Mr. Hellman, same question.
So certainly we need to partner with stakeholders who are aware of the special education concerns. So form committees, task forces, listen to special education teachers, take their input to help solve these problems. But we also need to make sure we have the right resources, give the teachers the resources, give the students the resources, and really make sure that we also create systems in place and that we inspire our teachers and our children to improve the performance of special education. And this isn't going to be an easy task, but sometimes people don't look at special education as something that they should put more money into. But really, we need to look at society from serving the most vulnerable populations. And this is a theme that I have, not just with the homeless people, but also with special education. We need to put more resources into our vulnerable populations. And that's really, I think, one of the biggest goals that politicians should have, is serving the interests of the most vulnerable populations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hellman. So the next question is going to go for the rest of the three of you. Austin ISD continues to see enrollment decline. What are the implications of this for the district, and what do you think needs to be done about it? And I will start with Ms. Stringer. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, 4 out of 10 students are not attending AISD schools. The implications are, I would say, twofold. They're financial. It makes it very difficult. Our schools don't end up having fewer expenses. We have to heat and cool them. We need to staff them appropriately. The resources that we have available diminishes over time, and our ability to actually support all students also diminishes. The second implication is community. We're experiencing a fracturing of our community. Our public schools are supposed to be and have been the cornerstone of our democracy. They're a beautiful thing. And support for them has been eroding substantially over the last couple of decades, and more recently has accelerated in the last couple of years. So in order to increase enrollment, we need to do better outreach to prospective families and parents. We need to actually talk to parents during the school year, ask how their experience is going, try to acknowledge where there have been either missteps or challenges and get ahead of those before they actually leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Moore.
Hi, yes, $6,160 of our basic allotment goes to another place for about 16,000 of our students. I would like to focus on middle school. I spent 7 years teaching 7th grade math. Middle school happens to be one of those times in every family's life that we're all a little bit afraid of because middle school's hard. So I would like to spend some time and actually understand what's happening at our middle schools. That's where we lose a lot of our students. They're happy in their elementary school, and they sometimes come back for high school, but that middle school area needs some attention. I believe that more than anything else, similar to what Lindsay said, we've got to be out there talking to parents. I don't want to talk to them after they've left. I want to find out why they left, but more importantly, I would like to talk to them about why they're staying. We've got families that send multiple children to our campuses. We need to find out what we're doing right also and find out ways to replicate that across the district.
Thank you.
So first off, I would like to give credit to AISD's outreach that has worked to increase enrollment, and this year's been better than previous years. It's the same with staff retention. It's not all the way, but it's a start. And one of the ways that that's worked has been through outreach to the families. We need to double and triple down on those efforts, looking for students that could be going to AISD and are not going to AISD. The other part, what I see from lots of families in other districts going to charters, moving around, is they're not happy in the other school either. You know, there's a lot of circulation going on, and I think that's part of what we see with students leaving during middle school. We need to repair the connection, the community piece, where people feel ownership on these schools. You know, I taught at Lively, used to be Fillmore. You know, there were families that had deep connections to that school that had lived in those areas. You know, as Austin's changed, there's been a lot of motion between the families, and what we need to do is reconnect and have that feeling that that campus is yours. That's the start of it. Beyond that, it's the outreach, and as everybody I think is kind of parroting, is understanding what's keeping families there and what's having families leave.
Thank you. And that's our last question. I am going to ask each of you just to state your name one more time for folks who are in the room. Since many of you are new faces, just state your name again.
Sure. I'm Fernando Lucas de Rioste. I'll be the longest name on the ballot by far, running for at-large 8.
And I'm the shortest name. I'm Amy Moore.
I'm Lindsay Stringer.
Nathaniel Hellman, Hellman's Mayonnaise, Nathan's Hot Dogs, HellmanVote.com.
Hi, my name's Dylan Sky McAdams, but everyone just calls me Sky. Thank you.
So thank you all for running and caring about our families and our kids. So next up, we are going to move to our propositions. You can leave those there. We're going to move to our propositions. This will be AISD Prop A. Lynn Boswell, you are up. If there are any other trustees that want to join her, you're welcome to come. I think we have a couple who are here. I can't do anything. Hi there. So you guys are going to have 8 minutes total for whatever your presentation is. Well, we can do less if you like, because okay. So whatever you need for your presentation and the questions that I have is within that time. So go for it. Yeah, I just cut 2 minutes off. So go ahead.
Okay, you want to start? Sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Gonzalez, and I'm a former teacher. I'm also the child of a former AISD teacher, and I currently represent District 6, which is South Central Austin, on the Board of Trustees.
And my name is Lynn Boswell. I represent District 5, which is Central, West Central, South Central Austin.
So I'll go ahead and get us started. Just to kind of set the stage of why what we're asking your support for is necessary. Since 2019, the state of Texas, under the leadership or misleadership of our state Republican Party, has not increased funding for our public school systems. And that has impacted school districts all across our state, both small and large, AISD included, despite the fact that we have a AAA financial rating from every bond agency that exists, and that we have received above a 90 from TEA, the very TEA that was referenced earlier. We are still facing a crisis. There are many things that our community chooses to invest in that are reflected in our budget, that we go beyond the minimum requirements of the state to do. We offer K-12 dual language education. We offer fine arts and physical education at all grade levels. We offer our students access to classes for free at ACC and the University of Texas. We have certified librarians on every single campus. We have full-time nurses on every single campus. All of those things are beyond what is minimally required, and they all cost money. Because our state has chosen to starve our public school system intentionally, all of those things are on the chopping block as we enter our next budget cycle. Prop A would provide $500 additional per student of our 74,000 student district. Just to give you an idea of what we would need to keep up with the pace of inflation, that would require an additional $1,000 per student. So because our state has failed to act, we are asking Austinites who have again and again and again stepped up and testified at the legislature on behalf of our public school system to please provide this investment for our students. Trustee Boswell, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I want to share how we're going to use these funds if our voters approve them. We're planning to bring new academic supports to our students, instructional coaches to help our students who need targeted support in certain areas of learning, new supports for our special education students. We're going to use the funds to bring every employee up to a market rate of pay based on other Central Texas districts so we can continue to stay competitive. We were able to give our staff a raise 2 years ago. We have not given our staff a raise this year. We're going, if voters approve this, we'll bring people up to market rate. That has helped us with our retention. We were in 20%, we lost about 20% of our teachers during COVID. We have stemmed that tide. We're keeping our teachers, we're keeping our principals, and the rate of attrition between our Title I campuses and our non-Title I campuses, the gap is less than 1%. We're making profound moves with this, and money is part of what makes that work. The climate and culture matters, it all matters, but making sure that people can continue living in the city and serving our kids matters. The funds will also go to all of our classified staff up to market rate, and people who are not at market rate everyone will get at least a 25-cent raise. We have 2 years ago, we passed a floor. Everyone is up to $20 an hour. That's the same amount as our teenage lifeguards make in the summer. We need to be able to do more for our classified staff. That was a move from 16 to 20. It was big, but we still need to keep moving in that direction. The money will go to instructional coaches and additional supports for our educators. We know when we have new educators, they need that extra support. When we need to differentiate in a classroom where we have students who are gifted and talented, students who need extra help, students with special needs and special education needs, those instructional coaches will support our teachers to make sure that happens for every kid and to help them be the best teachers they can be. There's a big list of things on the menus. We're also bringing some new student mental health supports with those funds. So it really is going to make a difference if our voters show up and approve it. It has already been approved by the Travis County Democratic Party, by Education Austin, by the liberal Austin Democrats. Yes. Yes. Yes, this money is subject to recapture. So what this proposition, and I will fill you in, what this proposition will do is bring us up to the maximum we are allowed to have under state law. The other thing it will do is that a significant amount of those funds will leave the district. We will keep $41 million. $130 million of the new dollars will leave. It will take our total recapture from 49% of our budget to 51% of our budget. That is still lower than we have been in the past. Our recapture went down about $270 million this year because of the homestead exemption that went up. In addition to that, we have legislative priorities that include fighting recapture in many ways. We believe that recapture has a place in our system to make sure all of our schools are equally fairly funded. We do not have less money than other districts because of recapture. We all have the same inadequate amount of money. And a lot of the money we send is not amplifying what reaches our schools. No one in Texas has enough. We rank in the bottom 10 in per student funding nationwide. We fund about $4,000 less than the national average. Texas educates about 11% of all kids in the country. We're working to fight recapture by asking for a study of the impact of recapture and housing affordability. That's a big issue here and in many other places. We're working to advocate for a return of the early payment discount on recapture. On Wednesday, I'm going to Dallas for a 2-day meeting with other recapture districts in the state with a group called the Texas Schools Coalition. We will all be working together to push for recapture reform. Recapture started as a small program. It has now become the 4th or 5th largest source of revenue for our state. That is not right. And the recapture dollars they are receiving from our communities, rather than amplifying what reaches our students and our schools, is enriching the state for the money they're sitting on. So we are fighting that fight as well. And we are asking our community, people have talked about this being not an easy thing to come ask our community for, and a necessary thing to ask our community for. So we're asking for your support as we do that.
Thank you. So you answered many of the questions I had. We do, for full disclosure, need to know how much of a tax increase this would be for the average home.
Yes, it's a 9-cent tax increase overall. It will be about $34 a month for the average homeowner, which is right now about $560,000 home. People over 65 with the exemption will not see any increase in their taxes. People with the exemption for disability will not see any increase in their taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much. And I'm assuming since you guys have been here a long time, you'll be here for a little bit longer. If people have questions when we wrap up, we got a couple more people who've been waiting and we're running a little late. So I want to get through to them.
Perfect.
So if I can invite
we have some literature in the back for anyone who's interested. We have the resolution the party approved and a one sheet that you can share with people. Thank you.
So if I could invite, thank you very much. I'm going to invite the Travis County Cares Proposition A up here. Again, so however, we have 8 minutes total, however we can do it. I do need to do a disclosure on this one though. I've been involved in this initiative from the start. So I'm not exactly an impartial moderator here. But I do want you to hear from them. And I think it was kind of impossible to get someone who's impartial all day, all afternoon. So please go ahead, Libby.
So good afternoon. I'm Libby Doggett. I'm a volunteer on this project and I'm delighted to be here. I'm going to give you a quick overview and tell you why I'm spending all of my free time on this for the next 2 months. And then Kathy McCourse, who is very knowledgeable and helped formulate this great idea, is going to answer the hard questions. Before I get started though, I'd like to thank Allison, because we wouldn't be here if Allison Alter hadn't really spent a lot of time learning about childcare, pulling people in, doing what leaders do, which is to lead. And also I see Vanessa here, and she also spent a lot of time. So we've had leaders at all levels, at the county level, at the city level, the school district has helped. United Way has led this where Kathy was employed. And they have talked to people for really, this has been going on for 3 or 4 years, really talking to people about how we can fix the childcare system. Anybody who has children or grandchildren, as I do, knows that our childcare system is broken. We don't have enough childcare seats. We don't have enough quality seats. Moms and dads who need to go to work, who want to go to work, can't find the care they need, and it's broken. We're going to get more money at the federal level if we get the right presidential candidate elected, but that's not going to solve the problem. We have a lot of federal money that comes in on child care. The deficit is at the state level and also at the local level, because we haven't in the past really thought of kids or child care as education. We haven't put a lot of money in, but cities all over and counties all over the country are starting to do that. I worked with them when I worked with the Obama administration years ago. So it's time for Austin to step up, and we have an opportunity to do this. So Prop A, which is similar to, and is not in competition with the proposition for schools, that we want both of them to pass. Kids need both of these. It's not going to be too much money out of people's pockets. It really is going to make a difference, because it will all come back because we'll have a stronger system. But the child care proposition will enable us to collect about $75 million a year, which will go into building a child care system. It will impact about 10,000 children and families. The main thing it will do is provide 2,000 children and families who are on the waiting list, and this is mainly infants and toddlers. So these are parents who have just had a baby. They need to keep their job. They haven't had a chance to save for childcare, although childcare is expensive as going to UT. So we're going to help get those people off the waiting list, get them back to work. Another part of the money will go to actually raise the teacher salaries. $20 for lifeguards, $20 for everybody that works at AISD. $20 would be fantastic in childcare. Very few people in childcare earn $20 an hour. So we're going to raise the salaries of the childcare workers. We're also going to have a small project that looks at how can we engage the business community a little bit more, and because these are people who are working with them. And then finally, we have a major piece of the project that will go to after school care, because they're older kids who are going home to houses, they're getting in trouble, and we'd love to have more after school care where they can learn tech, they can learn good skills, and they can actually do volunteer work. So this is a great proposal. It really needs to pass. If this is our opportunity to build a childcare system that supports families, that supports the children, and that supports our economic development here in Austin. So, questions?
Thank you very much. So how much would this initiative, Travis County Cares Initiative Prop A, cost for the average family?
Yeah, so the average homeowner, it would cost about $10.22 a month, and that's about $125 a year. So that would be for the average homeowner.
Thank you. And we have people in our community who don't have kids, who don't have grandkids, who own property. They may be commercial property owners, they may be residential property owners. Why should they support Travis County Cares Prop A?
Everyone in our community is impacted by the lack of affordable quality childcare. It impacts people's workforce participation, workforce productivity. How many of you may have a colleague who's had to miss work or has transitions out of work when they have a second child because they simply can't afford childcare? The state of Texas loses $9.3 billion per year in lost revenue due to childcare breakdown. So it is costing us already. We can have many more people in the workforce. In addition, think about all the families that are on in ACC, the students that are trying to participate in the workforce, and they don't persist in the current semester or through their degree because they have children and they cannot access childcare. So we're preventing our future workforce from thriving. And the last piece is that our youngest children, that birth through age 3 is the most critical period of brain development. It impacts school readiness, which impacts third grade reading, which impacts their entire trajectory for being part of our future workforce.
Just think of everything a child learns in that first year. They learn to walk, they learn to start talking, they learn who they like, they learn what foods they like, what foods they don't like. That is such an important period, and right now we're not providing what those kids.
How does the passage of Prop A address the 14 zip codes that do not have enough childcare providers?
Yes, those are called childcare deserts, and they tend to be in the eastern crescent of Travis County, where our families are moving because they're finding Austin more unaffordable. So this program will help providers, people who want to become childcare providers, overcome some of the financial barriers that it takes to open a licensed childcare center or a licensed childcare home. It's highly regulated. You have to meet many, many requirements, and sometimes a woman or a man might want to open a family licensed or registered family childcare home. They have to have a fenced backyard. They have to have fire extinguishers. There's all these costs are associated with the program before you can get licensed and actually open and start earning money from families. So this will really help overcome those barriers, as well as help us recruit and retain a workforce and better train them before they're going into the childcare sector, giving them more training than the limited 30 hours that the state requires. So we really want to improve the working conditions for staff, improve the compensation for staff, and better train them before they go into the center and work with our children.
Thank you so much. And if you'd like to get involved with the campaign, you can go to affordablecchildcaretoday.com and get involved. And I will just remind you that for every dollar that we invest in childcare and after school is a $9 return, which is a pretty high return. So don't get me started on what it means if you donate to our campaign on how much return you get, but it's a lot. So you have me sitting here all day, so I get to do that plug. Thank you, Libby, and Kathy McCourse has been our major leader here. So thank you as well. So not last but not least, we have our three candidates who are in uncontested endorsement rates. They are in contested races, but they are not running against Democrats. So if I could ask Councilmember Fuentes, candidate Lane, and candidate Wilson to come up here. You guys have been patient. Cole has been here all day and waiting for your 1 minute. So I'm going to ask Ms. Fuentes to speak first, and you push that on green and hold it up close because we do have a bunch of people virtual.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanessa Fuentes. I'm proud to represent District 2 on Austin City Council, and I'm a proud Texas Democrat. I am the only Democrat in my race, and I'm really proud of the record that I have that reflect my democratic values. I brought forward legislation alongside AFSCME, our union, to raise our minimum wage to one of the highest in the country. We're now at $21.60, and we're on our way to be at $22 per hour. I also worked on the renters' rights agenda. We know the majority of Austinites are renters. And I'm also, this last budget cycle, we reestablished our abortion care fund, which is necessary for Austinites who now have to travel out of state to get the reproductive health care that they need. So I stand here before you today to humbly ask for your endorsement for my reelection campaign.
Thank you. Awesome. Ms. Lane is running for District 6 Council.
I'm Krista Lane. I'm running for Austin City Council against Mackenzie Kelly. We are the only two people in the race, and she is running as Austin's only Republican on City Council, bringing in money and support from all over the city and the region. I became politically active because I experienced in Round Rock ISD, which District 6 is 95% Round Rock ISD, an attempt from the Moms for Liberty to take over our school district. And I ended up saying, you can't have my schools, I'll organize. And we organized and we beat a slate of 5 Moms for Liberty candidates. And I, meanwhile, was redistricted to Mackenzie Kelly. And the first thing that I learned about her was that she was connected to the same people and forces that I did not find stood for my values. So I tried to find someone to run against her, and I failed. And I was convinced that that person was me. And so I started getting involved here in Central Austin and with Travis County Dems. I've so far only worked on nonpartisan races. And it's a lot to get out and do all of that, you know, and to meet all of you. But what I have learned as I have done that is that, one, Mackenzie Kelly really has to go because she is impacting our entire city council and our entire city. She gets on KXAN and everywhere with her talking points that resonate with the Moms for Liberty far too much as the only Republican on city council. And the other thing that I have found is that she is extremely ineffective on city council. My professional background is as a real estate appraiser. I spent a decade specializing in the Austin housing market, and I also worked on transportation, utilities, basic fundamental services that the city is responsible for providing. I live in an area, much like Councilwoman Alter, that has a lot of woods around it and canyons. We have a lot of wildfire risk. You know, there's a lot going on that requires effectiveness in our city. And in District 6, I understand that my opponent is running as the public safety candidate. I have some public safety goals too. I would like to do something to help the response to homelessness be more effective throughout my district. I do not want to fundraise on these problems not being solved. And that is what she's doing. She's fundraising on not solving problems. I want to be part of the solution, and I want to work with City Council to do it. So I hope that I'll get your support, and I hope to meet more of you after this and soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. Mr. Wilson is running for ACC Trustee, Place 7.
Thank you, ma'am. Hey, everybody. Thank y'all for hanging out to the very, very end. My name is Cole Wilson. I'm running for the Austin Community College Board of Trustees, place 7. I'm running as an almost truant high school graduate, a Pell Grant recipient when I enrolled at ACC, and still today a dyslexic learner. I've got 1 minute, so I'm going to be really brief. I want to say that my campaign has been endorsed by some amazing people, Trustee Gonzalez, Trustee Hunter, the amazing Councilmember Allison Alter, Ryan Alter, Zoe Kadri, State Rep Cole, Goodwin, Tellerico, Busey, Flores. And that's amazing, and I'm humbled, and it puts wind in this campaign sails, but I can't do it without y'all and your endorsement and your help telling your friends about this town down ballot campaign. So please, my name is Cole Wilson. I'm running for the ACC Board of Trustees. Tell your friends to keep scrolling and keep pressing that next button so they get at the bottom of the ballot, and tell them to vote for me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And we have one of our folks who's running in I don't remember which thing, but it is a hard fought race, and we're going to invite Ms. Judge to speak.
Thank you. My name is Holly Taylor, and I'm running for the most important Texas court that most Texans have never heard of. That's our Court of Criminal Appeals. Texas is one of only 2 states that have 2 Supreme Courts. The Texas Supreme Court only does civil. The Court of Criminal Appeals does all criminal appeals at the highest level in Texas. Super important to our criminal justice system, and super important to safeguard our constitutional rights as Texans. My opponent is personally endorsed by Ken Paxton and has received almost $90,000 in PAC money from him. He's also personally endorsed by Donald Trump. He is not primarily a criminal law practitioner. I am. I have 25 years experience practicing criminal law, former adjunct professor at UT Law School. I've been rules attorney for the court I'm running for, and I have worked for many years for the Travis County DA's office. I am the director of public integrity and complex crimes division at the Travis County DA's office. Got the endorsement of Beto O'Rourke and my boss, Jose Garza. I am really proud to be your candidate. It's a statewide race, but I am local. I am an Austin resident, and I've raised 4 children here in Austin. Thank you so much. Can you please help me get the word out about this important race and the courts this year? Thank you.
Yes. So thank you very much, and thank you all your candidates, and thank you for understanding that we have limited time with all the other candidates who have contested races, but please also remember these folks. Before we go, I do want to do a big thank you for Ann Denkler, who got all of this organized, and Jessica Cohn, who got us online. And again, I want to thank the plumbers and pipe fitters. And then we have all of our clubs that are hosting today: Black Austin Democrats, Capital Area Progressive Democrats, Central Austin Democrats, Circle C Area Democrats, Northeast Travis County Democrats, North by Northwest Democrats, South Austin Democrats, and Stonewall Democrats of Austin, and Mark McCullough, who kept us all on time. Thank you all, the candidates, and thank you all who stayed all day.
And a big thank you to our moderator, Council Member Allison Alter. Thank y'all so much for coming out. We'll let you know when the recording's online.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I got your last name wrong. I just kept seeing Judge, and I was like, I don't remember last name, but maybe strangely that's her last name.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
Well, you kept that on. Why don't you run for mayor, man? You can run a meeting tight.
Yeah, but I love you to be.
If any of the candidates walked off with the microphone, please bring it back. Anybody have a microphone? We're missing one microphone.